some decorum, please. Stand before you talk. State your name so that Laura may address all the comments and questions to the chairman. Keep your comments brief and focus on the issue. Please try to avoid repetition. Just be courteous to everybody. Thank you. We'll now call a roll call, Laura, please.
Bruce?
Here.
Dennis?
Yeah. I'm sitting in for Frank Riley, who's ill.
Rick Morgan,
Bob is here.
Connie?
Connie Billings,
And
Rick St. Jean. I raised Rick St. Jean to full board. Takes place Mr. Kwiatkowski, who was in the hospital. So, first item on the agenda tonight, registered voters of the town of Ossipee request the selectmen and town meeting present the following. Are you in favor of the adoption of RSA 674, 71, 674, 72, 674, 73?
A point of order, Mr. Chairman. You are the sponsor of one of these petitions. Would it,
I am
is it not proper for you to suggest someone else chair
I am
this,
just introducing
discussion?
it. That's all I'm doing, which is my job. Shall be effective June 1st, 2007. The ADU shall comply with all sections of the Ossipee ordinance. Yes, I am a signer of this. So, there are several people that have signed it, are here tonight. I don't know whether anybody wants to speak on it first.
I can't.
Does anyone wish to address the general issue of accessory dwelling units and what is it all about? We could offer some explanation without referencing the specific items before us here tonight, if you wish.
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry, Kathy Lord. I can't understand
That's all
Mr.
right.
Billings. I know it's an issue, but if somebody else may want to speak and
Yes,
loud
okay.
enough for us all to hear.
All right, try.
Mr. Chairman, I'll jump in if I don't mind, if you don't mind. This issue is about ADUs, which are actually accessory dwelling units. Some people would refer to them as mother-in-law apartments, that type of thing. Currently, under our zoning, you are allowed to have an accessory dwelling unit, correct me if I'm wrong, so long as it is attached to your house.
And it's called an accessory apartment, actually, in our
Okay.
current zoning ordinance.
It's called an accessory apartment. So that if you had your home and you have an attached garage and you wanted to have an apartment above that garage for your children or your parents, your in-laws, or even to rent out, which is going to be the case, I think, for many of your older people who are trying to hold on to their houses and taxes and everything else. Currently, if it is attached, that's permissible. But if you have a garage which is detached, even by 4 feet, then that's not permissible. That, quite frankly, strikes my Yankee sensibility right in the forehead. Doesn't make a lot of sense. This is an issue which has been kicked around for quite some time. Now there is a new state law which is going into effect in June, which mandates that all towns accept and allow ADUs, accessory dwelling units, with some restrictions.
Attached ADUs.
Correct. There is a petition, of which I did sign it, as a citizen, not as a selectman. The petition is to adopt the statute in its entirety, which will allow for both attached and detached ADUs. I'll be honest with you, I signed that with some mixed emotions, because I think that it goes maybe too far. So what the selectmen have actually proposed, and we have sent it through our zoning officer to the planning board, some suggestions of ways that we think that the planning board ought to adopt a set of rules for the ADUs, which allow both attached and detached, limits the size. I believe it requires that the owner occupy one or the other, so that you don't get into a situation where you're having multiple rentals on the same lot. Restricts the size to, I think, 1,000 square feet, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve?
1,000 square feet, right.
So it kind of, I believe, what the selectmen have suggested to the planning board, which is ultimately purely the planning board's decision, is what I would refer to as middle ground on the issue. Correct me also if I'm wrong, if we do nothing, then that law supersedes the town zoning ordinance on its effective date in June, I believe.
I think, I may be wrong in this, but we need to have something in the zoning ordinance that acknowledges the permissibility of an attached ADU. What we have now kind of does that, but doesn't take into account some of the stipulations in the law.
It also, right now, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, is only in certain zones
Correct. Correct.
currently, which the law is requiring that you extend that throughout your zones.
Wherever residential
So,
is permitted.
so right now, what we have is much more restrictive than what the law says it's gonna have to be. The petition, I believe, may go a little too far, because you could ultimately end up having multiple ADUs on a single parcel. Yes, they have to meet the setbacks, yes, they have to do some other things. Again, it seems to me that what the selectmen sent to the planning board may well be good middle ground, but it's not within our power to put on warrant articles unless we wanted to do it by petition. That is within the, within the powers of the planning board to do, so.
One additional perspective
Go
here.
ahead, Laura.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Laura.
I would like to clarify one thing. The new RSA 674 laws are actually 3, not 2,
That's right.
which seems to be the focus. The law states that the towns need to adopt 674:71, which is the definition of an ADU.
Right.
674:72, which lays out the specifics for an attached ADU.
Right.
It also includes 674:73 with the municipality's options of adopting detached ADUs. And that is the one that some people seem to keep forgetting is there. It's not one side or the other. It's
That's right.
adopting the whole thing.
That was the point that I was about to make, but you did it very well. There are two kinds of ADUs, the attached, which the law says you must permit, and then the detached, which may in effect be a small home of up to 1,000 square feet elsewhere on the property, entirely separate from the existing principal residence. That is optional. We're not required to do that. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, no other town in the area is actually at this time proposing that we know of. But we do have that option, and the state sets out certain terms and conditions if you want to do it. Now, some towns, actually, there is a town, and I think we know somebody from that town on the planning board there, Brookfield, as I understand it, is proposing 2 separate amendments for people to vote on. One, the attached ADU, separately, the detached ADU. So in case some people prefer one and not the other, and vice versa, voters have a clear choice. What we have in the petition, and also what we have in the proposal currently coming forward from the selectmen, puts them together. So it's all or nothing in effect. Attached and detached, all together, or none. The question for public, I think, is what are people's preferences? You are in some ways representative of the town, small slice. What sort of feeling is there for detached versus attached? Should we separate them in terms of amendments?
Is there a limitation on the number of attachments?
One.
Sorry, just
No,
one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, if you want to identify yourself for the
Oh,
purposes of
sorry,
our
I'm
record.
using the word.
Yeah. Yeah, in each case, you're limited to one.
One
Would you-
attached and one unattached? or
That's
the-
correct. That would be right.
Dallas Emery. Don't we already allow it with special exception through planning board anyway, detached?
They have been.
They have been, right? So it's already something we already.
Go to ZBA and they'll
Well, the
consider
ZBA,
it.
yes.
ZBA
They
and
can-
consider.
you gotta ask them.
But
But
that's
it's
it.
not something that's unheard of in the town that we don't do already, we do it.
Yeah, it's difficult and complex and can be, you know, troublesome to have to go through the ZBA to do this, and you may not get their approval.
Most of the ZBA's variances have been when someone takes a garage down that had a structure above that they were using as a housing, and they allowed them to rip it down and take a new one.
Another thing is ZBA boards change all the time, so what one ZBA does, the next one might not.
We have some additional
Now,
seats up
forward.
front here, folks.
Matt, this seat's up here. We're speaking on ADUs, Matt, if you'd like to address it.
All right, so there's not a lot of strong feeling one way or another, I would guess, about ADUs.
Well, if I could just make a comment, my name's Joe.
Joe,
Joe Deegan, son of Ossipee. And just to make it clear, the minimum size is 750 square feet, but the current ordinance already exceeds that. It already exceeds it as 1,000. And I believe that what you're proposing is 1,000 square feet, which is.
Maximum,
maximum.
maximum
Right,
1,000.
right.
The
Yeah.
law says you
Minimum.
cannot set
You
a,
you
cannot set a
go
limit
no
lower than
750
750, that's
square
right.
feet.
Yeah.
In the required ordinance, it has to be in all districts. And you have to, it says you can, according to this is from that thing we went to, you can make a choice as a matter of right, which is that, or by special exception or conditional use permit. And then there's a whole list of options that you
So
can
you're
add
talking
on.
about the attached or unattached?
The attached.
I would agree.
So
And-
that's just
And
a-
and what Dallas,
Go ahead.
what Dallas mentioned, which is true, you can currently get it approved through a variance, if you can meet the criteria for a variance, part of which I believe is a hardship. You know, for those who believe that, again, that there shouldn't be any difference between having an apartment over a detached garage versus an attached garage, I think it makes some sense.
I mean,
One of the issues that I think that people ought to think about is, again, trying to make sure that the rules are consistent for everybody, and these are in fact the rules.
And I think some of the options you should probably be looking at too, is to make sure that it stays consistent with the original building, let's say, or the surrounding, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there's different options laid out, and I think that should be taken into consideration if you're gonna take that type of, go that way, to allow a separate, building.
What Steve McConerty, our zoning officer, has devised here, working with the selectmen, is a set of terms and conditions that are pretty consistent with what other towns are doing around us. And Steve, I don't recall if it still includes a provision that the two units, the primary and the ADU, should be architecturally consistent.
Yeah.
It does.
It's still there.
Should be owner occupied, et cetera. Yeah,
You're getting off the subject because
I am.
this is an adoption as it sits. And that's it.
So what we're talking about now, just to clarify, Connie, am I correct, is the petition
Correct.
to do this, and the petition only says that we should adopt into the zoning ordinance the terms of RSA 674, 71, 2, and 3. No other specifications, no other terms and conditions, which you guys are saying that may be a little too broad. That's your view. Connie's is different.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I want this adopted. And then, as Steve says, to bring the other in as a separate item. So in other words, because the planning board could not come up with anything on ADUs, even up until now, we're still talking about them. And the only way you could get it done, make sure it was done was by petition. And that's why the petition was started.
In effect, we've been waiting for some guidance to see what the selectmen wanted to do, and we have that guidance now.
Well, we've
But we
waited
have not
3
actually had a
years.
chance to discuss it among ourselves.
We had
waited
3
3
years,
years.
and you shot it down every time I brought it up.
Yeah.
I disagree with that.
Been trying to pass this for 3 years, so that's why the petition's here. That's it. Would anyone else like to speak on it? Jonathan,
Jonathan Smith. So just let me
stand up,
confirm,
please, Jonathan.
just let me confirm what you're saying. You're looking to adopt a state regulation as it sits with no changes as of now.
Correct,
All 3 RSAs.
correct.
And then you're gonna look to, as with the planning board, modify it to fit the town by June, is that what you're saying?
Correct. By the town meeting.
By the town meeting?
Well, this would go on the ballot,
This goes on the ballot just the way it is.
and apparently so would, in effect, the competing recommendation from the selectmen. So it might be a little confusing on the ballot if we have 2 items dealing with ADUs.
What you just said is not accurate, because it isn't going to be a warrant article on there by the selectmen.
No, I understand that. No.
But that's what you just said.
But you're
The
putting forward-
selectmen
you're
have
right.
made a recommendation to the planning board.
Right.
It is up to the planning board if it wants to put an article on that competes with that. The
Correct.
selectmen will not be doing so. It's not
Yeah,
it's
Exactly.
not our area.
And my point is, however, that we may end up with 2 what appear to be competing, but not entirely inconsistent measures dealing with
No, they
ADUs.
won't. They won't be competing because you're only gonna change 2 or 3 items on the petition.
And one will only take effect if the first one passes.
Correct.
Joe?
Go ahead.
Could I just please ask for a point of clarification? I don't have the RSAs in front of me. If you accept all 3 RSAs, that accepts everything as part of this, including the options?
No,
Yes.
no.
Well, I have conflicting answers here.
Yeah? No?
You are only accepting what the law has written.
But the law
On the
allows you to
petition.
expand options.
It allows you
No.
attached and unattached. That's the point of the 3 items. The first, as Laura said, is just the definition of an ADU. The second pertains to attached ADUs, which the town must permit. And the
Yeah.
third pertains to detached.
Okay, so we're accepting detached. What if, just to allow the town must accept the attached?
Yes.
It does not have to accept the detached.
Correct.
Correct.
Why can't it be done, do what you need to do, and then have more discussion of or whatever you need to do? Once you accept the first part, you've now met what state needs you to do.
We've been in
You
the
can
past for
always
3
add in the
years.
second half.
Joe, we've been,
I understand, I'm just asking for a point of clarification, it just seems to be going really quickly.
And it's
This
never
was
gonna
only put in
happen.
my
It's
hands
not
about a
happening.
month ago.
No.
This is 3 years.
this has been 3,
As far as this, right now, this has become an issue within the past, in
3
this
months.
town,
3 months.
within the past, or whenever this was
Since
handed out,
October, basically.
November 28th.
Right.
So that's relatively quick to get things done. When anything gets quick and I see it, it's something that's not always great for the town.
we're not, we have been doing this for 3 years.
Let's-
Every year it's been passed over.
Let's be clear about this. The issue has been raised every year for the past 3 years. It's only this past March that the state legislature adopted RSA 671, 2, and 3 that actually set a framework for doing this. So that's what we're acting on. And that's why all the other towns in the area are doing exactly the same
Right.
thing right now.
So it's forcing a speed up.
Well, it's,
So why not just do what you need to do? This is just my suggestion. I'm just one person. Do the minimum that you need to do, and then it allows you time, thank you. Then it allows you time to do
It'll
the rest of it
never get
correctly.
done. I've been here 8 years, it'll never get done. I'm telling you.
Well, I've seen other things not get done either.
That's my point. We are driving our kids out of town, they don't have places to stay, they don't have places to live. They don't have $15,000 to do subdivisions half the time, which you pay for a foundation. It's time we started trying to keep our kids in town instead of driving them out, because our population is getting older and it ain't getting much younger. Your tax base is gonna start disappearing. There are people who don't care, who don't want kids in town, have said so. Because of our schools. I'm sorry, we're a regional school. We're gonna pay for the schools whether they live here in town or Wolfboro. We ought to get things straightened around so our kids can live here. My point is, if they don't put these ADUs so it's subdividable, they should never be subdivided. If they put them out so they can subdivide it later, fine, they can subdivide it. And there should be a rule put in there for that. You know what I'm saying? So if you normally go into it and putting 2 or 3 houses on your lot for your kids, family or whatnot, and you know it can't be subdivided legally by our rules, tough cookies, because you normally did it. But if you've got 100 acres, you put them 2 or 3 houses, you allow for the cul-de-sac you need, and your bulk of code roads, stuff like that, fine. Come subdivide it later if you want.
But with all due respect, you said that you had use for this, and that you didn't want it.
I could care less. I've got a bulk of put-in driveway, and I got enough room for a cul-de-sac. I can do anything I want at my place. I've got one daughter. My house will be big enough she wants to stay upstairs or in the cellar. It's not gonna be a problem. My point is, we have kids. We're driving the kids out of town. I've been watching this for 8 years now. I've been on the board for 8 years this year. And we got people who don't want to do anything because they've retired up here. They get on the board. They want conservation, which is actually preservation. I do conservation logging. They don't want to do anything with the property they put in they call conservation. It's preservation. But it's okay to put big billboards up on the highway. That's different.
It's legal.
Yeah, that's my point. We ought to make it legal for kids to stay in town too. Ossepe's got more billboards than anybody else here in Conway. I drive to Rochester every day.
There's reasons for
So,
that.
I understand that. So there should be reasons for people to stay in town too.
The housing issues, I think, are real, we all agree on that. But the point is that the legal framework for permitting ADUs has really just come into existence this past year. And we're dealing with it at about the same pace, a little bit behind, a couple of months perhaps, as other towns in the area.
Wouldn't you also agree though, Bob, that the very reason that the legislature got involved, the only reason this was ever passed by the legislature is because it's an issue statewide and planning boards, not
Absolutely.
unlike this one, have not been able to agree?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of why that's why the legislature got involved to begin with.
It's provided a very good framework for
Val's, am I?
We
addressing
could have done
this.
the same thing.
I have a question, and maybe a couple of questions. I'm looking at the definition of this, and it says that it's for, you must provide facilities for including provisions for sleeping, eating, cooking, sanitation. Does that mean that they're allowed to put a separate septic tank in on a
Yes.
separate piece of property?
If it's a detached, it could be separate, yes.
So
Even
this property,
if it's attached, if you only got a
That's something
1,000-gallon tank, you will have to probably put another tank in because 1,000 will not cover
Right.
2 apartments.
Right, I'm
And you'll either have to modify your leach field or put a new leach field in. So you'll have to meet every criteria. Don't shake your head.
It's not-
I'm licensed.
It allows you to use the current system.
No, it does not. Your current system is numbered for different bedrooms. So if you got a 3-bedroom house, you got a 3-bedroom septic system, you have to modify it. The state's gonna say
It
no.
does not force you to do it.
That's right.
Am I right, Steve, or not?
Well,
Am I right?
Huh?
the state
I don't think
forces you
so.
to do it.
Steve says you're wrong, okay.
The state forces you to do it, because if you got a 3-bedroom house and you only got a 2-bedroom septic, you cannot run it.
This paperwork says you do not.
There are conditions and circumstances in which you might need a new septic system, but the state does not automatically require a new septic system. It simply requires you to meet state septic requirements, and if yours already does, you're lucky.
Which means that code enforcement can enforce it because you are limited to the amount of bedrooms on a leach field and a tank.
I have one more question. Whether we do anything with this petition, either way, doesn't this go into effect statewide?
No, the town has to adopt regulations into its zoning
State's
ordinance.
saying you have to do it, right?
No, you don't. If you do nothing, it automatically
Well,
kicks
yeah,
in.
okay.
Correct.
Sorry, the
The
attached.
attached,
The attached.
Just the attached,
Yes,
but the detached does not.
that's right.
okay? Even though it's all part of the same.
Yes,
three
one is
articles.
optional and the other's not. Right.
Excuse me, Cheryl Sawyer. The petition is allowing it to go to the voters whether you want to add the detached.
Correct. It's going to the voters as it sits. The voters will vote it down or vote it up. If they vote it down, 674-71, 674-72 will become effective, period, June 1st. You will not be able to have a detached ADU.
So in other words, the whole thing is basically about detached Why don't we have two separate things? I realize you can't change your written one, but I'm talking about this advised of the selectmen, whatever. Shouldn't it be two separate things? One for detached and the other one that the state's got. You don't even have to have that on there because it's gonna come in anyway.
And they're,
Well, that, in a nutshell, is what I said. What the Selectmen suggested through our code enforcement officer to this body was what we think is middle ground from doing nothing and doing everything.
Yeah, it should.
With some restrictions, which is the size.
Yeah, well, restrictions he came up with, which is good because he knows what's
Steve,
going on.
why don't you list some of the terms and conditions that you think ought to be in there?
I think there's guidelines that we need.
Yeah, guidelines.
That the residents should understand, whether it's gonna be special exception, you come up for a building permit, would you like me to give you a building permit, or you have to come to the zoning or the planning board to get the building permit? Size limitations. I mean, some people, you're gonna lose mountain views, water views. If somebody just wants to build, do you wanna know about your neighbor before they go and build, or? These are restrictions. These are guidelines that you should have. Multiple ADUs, any size you want, you don't want that on a property. You gotta have some guidelines.
Is there any number?
And how you're gonna adopt it?
The state doesn't have any numbers in the issue either, right?
No.
So you can have as many as you want.
I believe the state law does not set a limit on the number of ADUs on a given
And that's one of
property.
the problems with this, because it came up in the discussion that we went to.
Yes.
You have a piece of land and you don't have some restriction, if you pass it as it is, if someone has 10, 15 acres of land, they can put as many on that piece of it and make a motel. There's nothing you can do about it.
Or a barrack.
Just one attached to attached to attached to attached.
But it would still
We
have to
don't
meet
want
lot
that.
size by soil type calculations.
Pardon?
It would still have to meet lot size by soil type calculations.
Yeah, but if you got that kind of property, you can just keep going.
The state does limit the amount of attached ones, not detached.
That's something, right? We're talking about attached.
Attached means it's hooked to the house.
Right.
We only allow one by state.
No, right, no.
You read that, it says one. It gives you minimum and maximum size on it.
You can have one right after another. We discussed that at the meeting. That's why you need some restrictions here to prevent that type of thing.
One accessory dwelling, this is the attached, this is what the state law says, 674-72 about attached, which if we do nothing, this goes into force. It says one accessory dwelling unit shall be allowed without additional requirements for lot size, frontage, etc. The municipality is not required to allow more than one accessory dwelling unit for any single family dwelling. So that would seem to limit it to one.
So I said
attached.
it.
On your septic, I thought we had that discussion.
We brought it up.
But for
I told you.
Yeah,
detached,
that came up at that,
but detached could be
We
multiple,
brought it up.
unless you have some rules and regulations attached pertaining to it.
Nothing older. We brought it up.
Now, the petition would automatically permit detached, but without any terms and conditions, so that would indeed allow multiple ADUs in principle.
That actually comes up as an option to allow more than one ADU per single family dwelling.
Yep, it's an option.
But that's in subsection 73.
This is something that it allows you to add on to. There's a whole number of options that you can have.
Yeah, we're just looking at what the law actually says you have to do at the moment.
the law specifies, as far as water and sewer goes, that you can,
You want me to go down the list, Kenny?
you have to follow that RSA.
Right, okay, this is, now we're talking about RSA 674-72, attached ADUs, mandatory. One accessory dwelling unit shall be allowed without additional requirements for lot size, frontage, space limitations.
Well,
If-
number,
This is 674-72.
what Roman numeral?
Oh, I'm sorry, Roman numeral 1.
One.
Number 2, Roman numeral 2. If the zoning ordinance contains no provisions pertaining to accessory dwelling units, then one accessory dwelling unit shall be deemed a permitted accessory use as a matter of right. That is, they just go to you and get a building permit, right? To any single-family dwelling in the municipality. Number 3, an interior door shall be provided between the principal dwelling and the ADU, but you can't require that it remains unlocked. Okay, there has to be a door there.
Has to have a common.
Has a common wall, yeah, and there has to be a door in that wall. Number 4, Any municipal regulation applicable to single-family dwellings shall also apply to the combination of the ADU and principal dwelling unit. I think nothing else of importance here. Municipality may require additional parking to accommodate an ADU.
This 485.
Now, number 5, application for a permit to construct an ADU shall make adequate provisions for water supply and sewage disposal in accordance with state law pertaining to these things.
My point exactly.
Well, yeah. But separate systems shall not be required for the principal and accessory dwelling units. And if you already meet, as I understand it, this RSA, if your system already meets it, then you will not have to make any additional
Right.
But
improvements.
if it doesn't make it, you have
Then
to.
you do.
You have to do
That's
it,
right.
and that was my point.
And that's what.
I can read.
6, a municipality may require owner occupancy of one of the dwelling units, but it shall not specify which one the owner must occupy. And I believe that the terms and conditions you're suggesting would require owner occupancy so that we don't have an explosion of I don't know,
Rental units.
rental units that not occupied by owners. 7, a municipality may establish standards for accessory dwelling units for the purpose of maintaining the aesthetic continuity that is architecturally consistent with the principal dwelling unit. And it may not be restricted to less than 750 square feet. You're proposing 1,000. 8, a municipality may not require a familial relationship between the occupants of the ADU and the principal dwelling unit. In other words, it doesn't have to be a family member living in that ADU. This is for families, but if you want to rent it out, or if you're into Airbnb, please. 9, if I got my Roman numerals right here. Municipality may not limit an accessory dwelling unit to only one bedroom. Well, we're not. And 10, finally, an ADU may be deemed a unit of workforce housing for purposes of satisfying a municipality's obligations to provide workforce housing. Well, that's it. That's the whole law.
Sam,
Sam Marcus and Ossipee. You read a lot of may in there.
That's right.
So is it up to the planning board to do the shall?
No, it's up to the town to put in various terms and conditions that go into the zoning
Mr.
ordinance
Gillette,
that regulate it.
Can you let me finish speaking to the chairman, please?
I'm sorry, just answering your question.
Well, you keep interrupting, thank you.
All right.
So it's very broad where it says may. So would the planning board put some shalls in there so it's not quite so broad?
Yes.
what,
Is that answer your question?
Can you please let me speak to the chairman?
Oh.
what we proposed in this petition is to accept the law as written, with the understanding that the planning board would come back and say, okay, no more than 1,000 square feet, no more than this, more than one unit, etc.
But there's no guarantee there that you're gonna do that.
Oh, there's a guarantee because you got 3 or 4 people on this board that want the restrictions.
It just makes me a little hesitant that it's not already there, but I don't like all the mays when there's no shalls because May just leaves it wide open.
If we do nothing, you're gonna have it anyways.
That is the
Except for
point of the
detached.
recommendations coming out of the zoning officer and the selectmen to turn the mays into shells. Yeah.
Yes,
The
Joe.
point is if you do nothing, you get a basic setup. You
No,
don't get
you
all
get
the
that
other.
right there,
What I just read out, that's it.
You get the basic.
With all the mays.
setup
with all the May.
All the mays are there.
Without the may.
Yeah,
No,
with the
with
mays.
the
No,
May.
With the
all
mays.
mays. No, may means you don't have to do it.
No,
It's not
No,
you
no.
shall.
no.
But you
No,
can't
may
refuse.
is.
May is
not
you can
shall.
restrict it.
May is wide open.
May is.
No, right, you can add them in, but it's not a you shall.
Only by this process can you add them in, yes.
This is law, June 1st, period, with the Mays or everything else. It's law.
May doesn't mean you will.
It's law. So we do not make recommendations otherwise.
Well,
It
your other,
stays.
It's like when you go,
your other problem in May is gonna be is whoever is on the code enforcement at the time, may interpret it different every time, so you might be allowed one five.
Lose your shall and will means you have.
I understand that. What I'm saying, what I'm-
Do not.
Let me,
Enough, enough,
can I try an hypothetical explanation here?
Bruce.
Ah, good, let Roy talk, he wants to do all the talking.
My point was about may is, you may or may not have to do it.
Right.
And I agree with you on that. But the point is, if it's left that way, it'll be up to interpretation to Steve, or whoever's doing his job later, and one may be more restricted than the other guy.
I know.
If we do nothing, we get the state.
That's correct.
If we take the petition article, we get the same exact thing.
Correct.
What's the sense of the petition article?
The difference is, with the petition article, you also get detached ADUs, which are only optional.
You've got that? Oh, that's right. Okay, it's optional with the state. So you
With
get
the
it with that
petition,
one.
Bruce, with the petition, the town has their vote. The
Right.
townspeople.
Right?
Without the petition, the townspeople do not have a vote.
Okay.
Well,
If both are the same thing,
they're not.
what
We
difference
can-
does it make?
No, we can reject that law.
I know that, but the point is,
So if the town says on the petition, we don't want it, you get 300 no votes and 100 yes votes, then we can't adopt it.
at any rate, if you vote the petition one in,
Yeah,
you've got the state law.
Yes.
correct.
Or
You're
detached
saying
and attached.
afterwards we can modify it. We can't modify it till the next year.
That's right.
No,
That's right.
no,
You can't modify it unless you got it on your petition that you want to be able to modify it. Is
why.
it on there?
no.
Well, then you can't do it.
You cannot modify the petition.
Right? And you cannot modify
can
what
put-
the petition is once the town approves it.
You can put in amendments to that petition
Right.
as a separate article.
Okay,
That's how you do it.
okay, now who's gonna have the public hearing on this separate petition, this is a separate article?
You have certain ones in here tonight that are, yeah,
Run that one by me again, I missed that.
you have several articles, amendments in tonight's public hearing.
Okay,
There's
So-
this one right here, for example.
We will get to them when we get through with the others.
whatever.
Oh,
Yep.
yes, Rick?
I just think that, one, this is getting very, very confusing. If it's confusing for us, I gotta believe it's confusing for them. If we do nothing, the law that goes in June basically does exactly what we're doing now, except that it allows the attached in all the zones. If we do nothing, there is no restriction on it being one owner occupied or any of the other things that you just read. Again, what the Selectmen proposed that the planning board consider, which you haven't yet considered, I don't think,
We haven't.
is a list of those reasonable restrictions on ADUs. If you do nothing, none of those restrictions are in place. Am I missing anything?
No, you're not. That's, you got it right.
Okay. Did that help anybody?
Good, well done.
So in other words, once everything is settled here, we, the planning board, have to add all those in a separate article, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And then have a public
Then we're
hearing
gonna
on
have
that.
Another public hearing.
That's the
so
second
there's gonna
public
be
hearing
two
that we
articles
scheduled.
on the
Yes.
warrant.
That's-
Otherwise, you are gonna have one choice,
I understand.
which is either to pass that or vote it down. We're suggesting that you put another choice on there, which is the recommendation of the planning board, hopefully taking into account some of the things recommended by your zoning officer, to do the ADUs, but to put some reasonable restrictions on them.
Curiosity question, you have one thing saying one thing, and now you're gonna put something else saying something else.
You are.
Yep.
It's going, the petitioned article has to go on.
I understand.
If that petition said, to wear jeans on Tuesdays, it goes on.
Right.
There's 25 legal signatures.
Right.
Presumably, this article is either gonna be recommended or not recommended by your planning board. And then if the planning board can get a consensus and put its own article on, I would expect that that would carry an awful lot of weight with which one the voters pick.
Wait a minute,
Can I,
Marie,
Marie McConaty from Center Ossipee. So are you gonna let us know what the restrictions are that are being suggested by the selectmen and the zoning officer? Is that gonna be at tonight's meeting?
They are in this package, which I don't know to what extent this package has been made public beyond the
they
planning
will be
board.
tonight, Marie.
It will be
It was
tonight,
posted.
okay,
Yeah, we'll
so
talk
are you
about it
guys,
tonight, yes.
are you guys as a board gonna vote on that tonight?
No.
Whether
No.
you're going?
No,
No,
because
we'll argue about it tonight, and it will get voted on at the next public hearing, January 31st.
Well, you're gonna have to at least agree tonight what you're putting forward.
That's right, yes,
Correct.
we hope so.
So you'll decide tonight
I hope we will,
as to what you're going to wanna put forth on the
correct,
yes.
ballot?
That
correct,
will do, yes.
And then there'll be another public hearing on that issue alone.
Yes,
on those issues alone.
But we should know tonight
yes.
what you're, as a board, planning on doing for the
Well,
next.
as soon as we know, you'll
Is that what
know.
I'm getting at? I'm just trying to figure out how this all
I-
works.
I hope so.
Okay.
I got a quick
Thank you.
question here from what Rick just said here a moment ago. You said what the planning board recommends. About 4 years ago, we wanted to recommend something. We were told the planning board was not allowed to put on the ballot, we recommend something.
Petitioned articles, you can recommend or not recommend. In fact, you have to.
We were
So-
told 4 years ago we weren't allowed to.
It wouldn't make any sense. I mean, not to
I don't
sound
know
funny,
who
but
told you
it,
that. I
You
do
know the
that.
Pacifics better than I do.
but it wouldn't make any sense because who else in town should have a better handle on your zoning
Well,
ordinance
that's
than your
my
planning
point.
board?
If
So
we propose to put an item on the ballot, automatically you have safely assumed we recommended it.
Oh, I assume that, but my point is, we wanted to put that, whether we recommend it or not, 4 years ago, we were told we weren't allowed to.
Well, I'm-
What was the issue, you remember?
Water district,
Water district.
the one that Green Mountain was pushing.
We were told we could not recommend one way or the other. Why, I don't know, but it will come back to us.
Does the selectmen's recommendations recommend some sort of notification to abutters?
Steve, I don't believe so.
Over 1,000 square feet, that's when you go for special exception. If that's how you're gonna adopt it, or is it gonna be matter of right, we just come in and get a permit, depends on the size of the structure. And this is the guidance that I'd like to see tonight from the planning board, if we're not, we're gonna see it.
So, I'm sorry, may I again? So you're, all of a sudden, something's going up next door to me that's either blocking my view or is right on my property line or within the setbacks, and I have no notification of that?
They still have to meet all the setbacks, Sam.
I get
mean,
that, I said that, in the setbacks, yeah, but the fact that this can just be built without any kind of notification.
Well, your neighbor could do that on a vacant lot
Anyways,
anyways. If the lot next to you, Sam, was empty, somebody could buy it and build on it without notifying
Right.
you.
Just go get a building permit.
and whatever our restriction height is, they go to that height, if we have a restricting height. I'm not aware of one, but
Yeah, we have.
we do.
I think what you might be talking about too is somebody living on the water. Somebody building an ADU, detached, on the water. What limitations do you have? Guidelines?
Lot size,
Very limited,
very
very
limited.
limited. But if it can be done, it can do a lot of damage to other people's properties. So is it gonna be special exception?
We'll discuss that later.
Well, Cal Semery, Center Ossipee, I was just gonna ask the same question. It does provide in here for you guys to keep the zoning and the special exceptions the way you have them now. You don't have to change anything. I mean, you still have to do all of the same things.
No, if you don't do anything, come the first of the year, as long as
No,
it's
no,
attached,
that's
it's
why- That's
allowed.
why we're here right now. You guys have the right to, right now, make a decision. Make a decision on how you want, whether you wanna keep it the way you're doing it now for detached buildings or not.
You still have to meet your lot size, your setbacks, and your sewer and water.
That's right.
So,
It's still the same as it is now.
correct.
It would be my guess that the attached ADU, we can't put special exception, state law says you gotta allow it. Detached, might be able to put, where you don't have to allow them, you might be able to put a special
It
exception.
says you set the rules for the detached. You
For
set
the
rules
detached.
Detached. That's what I'm talking
That
about.
could be special exception, but the attached, we can't change
Right,
that.
not attached.
And
Not
even
attached.
then, so that you're clear, the planning board doesn't set the rules. The planning board
Exactly.
can make a proposal to town meeting, but if
Right.
there's a zoning change, which this is, it has to be voted on by the townspeople.
On the
They
ballot.
can't just put in administrative rules.
Well, no, but they can put the guidelines can stay the same as they are now. You have guidelines now
No.
for,
No,
Because the law effective in June is automatically changing all that.
we don't have any
not
guidelines that
for-
are applicable
not
to
for
this.
detached buildings, it's not.
Not for,
Not for detached, correct?
Not for detached buildings, it's not.
So the way I understand it is the planning board hasn't taken a position on detached units at all, or have you, or not?
We have not discussed and taken a position on the proposal that the selectmen and Mr. McConerty are putting forward. That we're gonna do tonight.
That's what you're gonna do.
But they've argued for 3 years about whether or not it ought to be allowed, in all
We've-
fairness.
I
Certainly
think
for the
that's
last 3
one
months.
reason- I think that's one reason why there's a petition, and a bunch of people have signed it.
Yeah.
Because it was my understanding that it was gonna get by another year without deciding on this. And as far as I can see, the 3 attached units are gonna happen whether or not we, because it's state law. We're really kind of trying to figure out whether we're gonna have detached.
We'd like to see some reasonable terms and conditions apply to both attached and if we're gonna have detached
That
also.
that would be understandable, yes.
So would the suggestions or the provisions being put forth be separate? One set of parameters for the detached on a warrant article or whatever, and the other be detached, or would it all be?
all one.
I would expect it would all be in one article.
But that would eliminate the possibility of people choosing if they like attached or don't like detached, et cetera. You don't have a choice if it's all bundled into one amendment. But that's the way you guys run it.
I'm town attorney, Rick Sager. I also own property in town. Probably what I'm going to say is going to make some people happy and some people not so happy, but such is the toil I must carry as an attorney. I'm not a big fan of this petitioned article just because it will allow for detached ADUs without any regulation on them. I know that you're trying to do the right.
You're wrong on that because your lot size and your setbacks are still in place.
Well, yes. But I think RSA 674-73 assumed that if the town was going to allow for detached ADUs, that the municipality was going to put some more regulations on them. That's not to say I'm not in favor, and I don't care, you don't have to care what I'm in favor of at all, but I guess I have a question. I have a document in front of me that's called Accessory Dwelling Unit Regulations. Is that something that your office put together, Steve, or where did this come from?
Selectmen.
Is that what I made up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some type of guideline.
I think this is good, and what I think, I don't want to, run the meeting, because that's not my job, but I think we should go through this because it seems that we're talking around it, and we should probably start talking about this and whether or not the planning board is going to put this on the warrant.
Now procedurally, Rick.
Oh, this is about the petition only. It is not about what that is. It is strictly on the petition. So, if nobody else got anything to say about the petition, I'm closing the discussion.
Do we vote on it now then?
Yes, you vote on it.
On whether to recommend or not recommend the petitioned article?
The petition is gonna go to the townspeople. If we don't recommend it, or we recommend it, it doesn't matter.
It still gets voted on.
It gets voted on, period.
Okay.
If I may make a motion then. Given that we will be discussing and surely approving an alternative to this petition, I would move that we do not recommend its passage.
Well, then, there's no sense going any further, because what Steve has not gonna work without a petition.
Yes, it
We're-
stands.
we're modifying a
It will
petition.
stand by itself just fine, by itself.
I don't believe it will.
If what he just proposed passes, and this planning board votes not to recommend, it's still going on just like it is.
Yeah.
Town people can vote on it.
Yes.
If I'm also hearing is that then your planning board gets together, puts in its own article with the restrictions on it.
I thought the article we were making now modifies that article.
You can't modify that, because that's by petition. That can't be changed.
Can't modify it.
I'll second your motion.
Thank you. Discussion. Further
Got
discussion?
that, Laura? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hands.
Who wants the motion?
The motion is not to recommend the petition amendment on ADUs.
I'm sorry, could you put your hands back up again, please?
Bruce? Dennis? Rick? Bob Gillette?
Okay.
I abstain.
I'll be abstaining too.
Do you want to say all those things?
Vote against it?
Hands.
So now we can move on to discussion of the proposals that the selectmen have put forward.
No.
No. Oh, we have another petition, I'm sorry, you're right.
Read the petition.
Yeah. The petition to amend zoning ordinance pursuant to RSA 675:4. We, the undersigned registered voters, hereby petition the town to amend the Ossipee zoning ordinance as follows. To see if the town will vote to amend Article 3.2 of the zoning map, it's not of the zoning, it is the zoning map, of the Ossipee zoning ordinance, to change the zoning classification of tax map 8, lot 22, from village district to roadside commercial district. And if we have someone here to,
Mr. Fishbein, you want to address your petition?
Ash Fishbein, Center Ossipee resident, owner of Stackhouse Meadery and Hops Tavern and Brewing Company. Yeah, we're, just as you read, we're looking to change the zoning of what would be 3 Covered Bridge Road in West Ossipee. Yeah, if we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
can you explain what you want to do with the property under roadside commercial zoning that you cannot do now?
Well, I'll be honest, it'll allow us to hopefully one day be able to merge the lots. That's something that we've considered. We feel that part of Ossipee, just being on the outskirts of a very commercial district, could benefit from what we have for ideas and what we bring to the table here.
What type of ideas?
What's that?
What type of ideas?
Anything from, we'd love to do the outdoor events. I don't think we need to beat around the bush there. We'd love to do outdoor events there. That can involve nonprofits, that can involve fundraising opportunities, that we'd love to do beer fests, outdoor beer fests. Our ultimate goal, big picture, is to bring outside dollars into this town.
What would the impact be on the neighbors?
Well, we'll probably get to that.
I think the chairman's over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Ash,
Yes, sir.
one thing you gotta remember before you get it. If you do not get the commercial and you want to merge those 2 lots, you will shut down Hobbs, because the more restrictive asset when you merge the 2 lots becomes primary.
So if you could, since we have our attorney here, can you read that and let me know if there's a may or a shall?
Oh, it's in the zoning.
How many people does Hobbs currently employ, Nash?
It ranges. This is off-season, so we have about 40. If we have, peak season, we'll have anywhere from about 70. And then Sap House, we do 5 full-time, and then my partner's business also has another 25.
I read somewhere recently that the largest single employer in Ossipee was in Hannaford, he said, about 40 or 45 people. So you're essentially neck and neck or even larger than that.
That's right.
So you would be one of the 2 largest, maybe the largest employer in the town of Ossipee?
That's right. Proudly. And in fact, I would just like to point out, without my volition, they just heard what we were doing tonight. A lot of my employees are actually standing, or Rob is here as well, standing right here behind us. Voter in town or not, we have a big impact on people, and they're here on their own volition to support what we're doing.
I want to suggest, maybe Rick can advise on this too, that what the question before us tonight as a planning board, with your public input, should not be confused with the issues that would come before us as a planning board deciding on a site plan review. We're not going to adjudicate a site plan here. We're here to talk about how, if at all, this zoning change would benefit the public interest of Ossipee. And if there are countervailing arguments to that public interest. I think that's the basic issue before us, is that right?
Well, the job of the planning board tonight is whether or not to recommend or not recommend the article for whatever reasons you deem appropriate.
So we're still looking for the relevant passage in the zoning ordinance here, right?
You want to speak, Francis?
Francis Lord, I live on Covered Bridge Road, have my whole life. We submitted some of the residents on the street here tonight. Jerry couldn't make it today, he sent me the all, so I didn't expect that she would. But we have pointed out a few reasons why we as residents on the street don't want it. There's a lot of reasons. Number one, you're gonna lose the tranquility of, what's that? No,
You wanna read it?
You got the letter.
You want
If
to read it for
somebody
the
wants to read
record?
it from your board, that would be great. It could save a lot of confusion, but, if they in fact make this a commercial piece of property, it's not just the land. They've started out with this.
Would you like to read your text here?
What's that?
Why don't you read the text into the record?
That'd be fine, I don't care. But at this, they've started out having this hearing on several occasions, and the town is, as Selectmen Morgan will tell you, they've already acted on this, and they've changed the outdoor ordinance. Now what they're trying to do is just come into the back door by an ordinance change. And again, if they change that ordinance, not just the land, it's the building, they can turn around and put a bar in there. They can put a garage in there, they can do whatever, if they make that commercial. And I don't think that's fair, and I can't believe a business would want to do that to their neighbors, but they're obviously going ahead with it. There will be no containment, no, there's nothing, but yes.
Just a question, this is already a village zone, so already a village zone, so certain commercial activities are already permitted in that village zone, as it is. The property in discussion here is zoned village, right?
It's a village district.
Yes. Certain commercial activities are already permitted in that zone.
I know that years ago, I read an article in the paper, I don't know everybody else, that they had boarding houses. Yeah, they did, that was when I was a kid. Mr. and Mrs. Baker had a boarding house before I was alive. There was, they were down there.
Well,
the zoning has had since taken its place. But I think that their activities are going to really diminish our tranquility, the people that live on the street, the taxpayers on the street. I'll read this letter out.
Yeah, please.
It says, as you know, a petition has been submitted requesting a change of zoning classification on the above, asking to remove this small parcel from the current village district classification to that of roadside commercial. We, the Borough residents and taxpayers in close proximity of said parcel, request this be denied by the planning board for a few of the following reasons. The parcel of land has been the subject of potential concerts initiated by Hobbs, Davin, via Charles Fish Farm, which has been a subject denied by the Selectmen, and a recent ordinance subsequently designed to deal with it. To change the classification would undermine the purpose of its most recent ordinance designed by the Selectmen. Additionally, the small piece of land they intend to seek to reclassify has a residential structure on it that could ultimately be a commercial business location for anything, which could severely impact the quality of the life of residents on the street that they now enjoy. The land they seek to use has little to no control as it is out of sight of the main business focus and has potential of intruding into the residential setting of the residents on the street which we now enjoy. For the life of us, we cannot imagine why a business would pursue such a matter which is deemed to be a nuisance by its neighbors, who have been vocal about it and have taken the time to attend selectmen's meetings requesting support. If the classification changes, then the Hobbs Tavern could have the concerts they want, as often as they want, any day of the week, any time they want. It would be a nuisance to residents of the street, particularly the ones closest to them, as if they would lose the tranquility of their front porch. It should be noted that the required signatures for petition presented has been signed by people mostly at the other end of town, would have zero impact on it, and which would, being our street. We hope that the planning board be most concerned with the people it would impact the most, and that's the resident and taxpayers of that street. So that's basically it in a nutshell. It was signed by everybody on our street. And
Okay.
there's really not
Thank
much
you.
more to say about it, other than I did read also in an article in the paper that the town has been allegedly negotiating with trails, New Hampshire trails, which I find that hard to believe. In fact, I was told by somebody from the town that that's not true. I know it was true a number of years ago, but with the town has spent a lot of money on the historic bridge, which I don't know if it's ever gonna land back on the river or not. But regardless, I don't know why they would be negotiating with the state, because I own all the property on the other side of it, and that snowmobile trail will never go back through there as long as I'm alive. We did that once, and it ruined a lot of our property. They were in your driveway, they were everywhere. It was awful. They just didn't stay on the trails. So if they're negotiating, I don't know what they're negotiating about.
They'll no longer be going across that covered bridge after we've spent $1 million on it.
And in case in point, they have rerouted the trail already, so I don't know where they're coming up with this info, but it's interesting.
Greg Howard, West Ossipee. I was one of the signers of the petition, so I live in West Ossipee. And in fact, I used to use Covered Bridge quite a bit. Covered Bridge Road, when the bridge was there, we had access so that my kids and I could use it to access the river and things. So I do use that area. I'm very familiar with the area. A couple points of information. The existing structure that's on this parcel was used as a real estate office. Further down the road towards Francis's house on the right, there was a bed and breakfast. I used to eat breakfast there. In fact, we ended up getting a dog from a litter that while we were eating breakfast there. So there has been mixed use in that village district already. This isn't strictly a residential area. And I'd be interested if everybody in the street would would put a deed restriction on, if they feel it's such a strictly residential area, would they change their individual properties to be strictly for residential use so that their parcels would never be used for anything other than a single family residence?
If I might just read the list of currently permitted commercial uses on that property as in the village district. Amusement facility, bed and breakfast, business office, inns, hotels, motels, not junkyards, personal service shop, restaurant, retail store, retail store, not a veterinary clinic, commercial, residential, mixed. All those uses are currently permitted on the property. So it's not strictly residential in that sense.
The reason for the giggles is actually Lindsay is a veterinarian, so.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to, yeah.
There goes the narrative. Hi, I'm Lindsay Lord at West Ossipee, and I'm a business owner myself. Emotions aside, I think we've belabored the point of our quality of life on the street. As a business owner, my perspective is quality of life of the people, and you're also, as a veterinarian, I guess, wildlife in the area. It is a flood zone. You are looking at a different environment. But my biggest worries are, in the paper they're soliciting non-for-profit, activities. The state or the town already furnishes Constitution Park and other locations that are for nonprofit use that are already current existence. So, those are, I think, potentially even underutilized. So now we're opening another door for another location that may or may not even be fully utilized. And I think the biggest concern I have is regardless of the fact if you turn this into a residential commercial district, you know, there are no regulations, as we've been speaking of, on confinement in that area. I mean, is this gonna become a parking lot, and are we gonna, you know, seeing residents on our street that are, or people visiting hubs gonna be able to, you know, walk up and down the street, which is fine, it's a street, and I can't control that, but I guess safety is a main concern as far as containment of these activities and whatnot. And it just seems to me that they already have a valuable indoor series and things that they're doing upstairs in their facility. You know, I feel like to add an additional community space, is it worth it for the town when we already have existing properties?
So, I just want to address a couple points. Ashfish Pine, South Ossipee, Center Ossipee. So, there's a couple bits of confusion here. As far as a village district, I mean, we could open a restaurant on the village district currently as it is, as it stands. It's no different than Center Ossipee is right now. This is a village district that you're currently in. And it's a mixed use of commercial and residential, which has been foggy since the days of Selectmen's meetings regarding outdoor events permits, where commercial is spilling over into residential. That is far from it. Village is very much a mixed use of residential and commercial, and we're doing it currently with Sap House Meadery over here, Mountain View Station right here, and then apartments and houses right here in town. It's no different. It can be treated exactly the same as that up in West Ossipee. It's not a cul-de-sac road. It's not a dead-end road. That bridge is hopefully going across this year. We'll see, right, Rick?
We've been trying for 10 years, but they tell us this year.
Well, the intention is still laudable. They're gonna get the bridge across the river at some point in time. It's not a dead-end road. And I'm not looking to make it a hustling, bustling road either. In fact, the parcel that we're talking about, where you can have anything out in that field or lawn area, is a great distance from any of the abutters. I've had, since 2013, I've had over 10 events out there with over 200 people, legally, might I add. And I have a letter here from Jim Eldridge. There's never been a single complaint of any of those that we've done. And they've all included live music or DJ music, or we in fact had 225 high school kids out there, and they're pretty loud. And we've never had a single complaint regarding any of that. So I think we need to take a step back here as well. And I think what we've done for the town is often overlooked. We are actually doing our best to spread the tax base here. I have found investors actively to help bring business to this town, which is what I hear everybody in this town say. I finally try to do that. We're successful at doing that in certain locations, and it's not the change that you might want to see or you might want to see, but it's a change nonetheless, and it slows the increase of tax roll here. I just found out I was doing some numbers today, 49% of the land mass of this town, and Connie, you sparked me on this, 49% is actually in current use, which is a burden to every single taxpayer. I am going the opposite direction by actively finding people who would invest in our town, who would actually create jobs in this town, and want to help slow the increase of taxes. Because guess what? They're not going down. So I do want to take a step back, and in doing that, we've put a tremendous amount of money into that location. And to say that any event that we have over in that property is going to be uncontained is an absolute lie. It's misinformation. We have licenses to protect. We have an investment to protect, a very large one at that. And we would do nothing of the sort to infringe upon any of that, to put anyone at risk, whether by health or by anything else. With that being said, the bridge is hopefully going across. It's all up into Hoyle and Tanner and all those things, town. The state DOT is actually changing Route 41 to align with Covered Bridge Road, and they're putting in a light. They wouldn't do that if they didn't think that that road was going to create traffic. Yes, it has a lot to do with safety. I stand out there all the time. I've seen accidents happen there. Not as much as our famous intersection down in Ossipee Village, it's 171 and 28. but they happen nonetheless. And they're taking a proactive stance in realigning that road with a stoplight. They know what's gonna happen when that bridge goes across. It's not, and it has nothing to do with Hobbs. That is going to be a busy road. It always has been. Greg touched on that there was a bed and breakfast and other things down there. If you look at our table of uses, it's really easy to see, to say you don't want to see a bar down there from someone who once owned a bar. There can be restaurants, there can be bars, there can be that. We're not looking to do that at all. My total vision in all of this was for us to create something very similar to the Cape Park concerts in Wolfboro, where people come, they bring their lawn chairs, and they get to watch the music, and they get to enjoy their time. We want people to come into this town. We've given our people that are driving through a million reasons not to stay here. We're trying to get people to stay here, and I think that needs to be noted. The property itself actually owns a billboard. I don't know if anyone knows that. There's a billboard on it. It's very much commercial in its existence already. And as far as back to that, what you're looking for, I can tell you it's May. I forget the number off the top of my head, but yes, it talks about road frontage and the ability to merge lots with another, but it says may become the district of a larger road frontage. But it doesn't have to be. I'm getting the impression that if I came in front of this board tonight, I would have an uphill battle there. But I just want to clarify, it does say may.
Kathy?
Kathy Ward from West Ossipee. I'm one of the people that live on that road, and I'd just like to bring up a few points that he just pointed out. First of all, I don't know that we have any proof that the realignment of the stoplight at 41 is anywhere to do with Covered Bridge Road. It's probably to do with who owns the properties at that area to put the light in, unless you can show me something that's proof of purchase, that's what it's in regards to, and nothing's been brought about that. Second of all, if he wants to talk about somebody owning a bar, meaning my husband, that was in the commercial district of Flanders Motoring. It had nothing to do with coming down on somebody's street and having some outdoor parties. It's a grass lawn. If anybody's been up there, it's not a field, it's not anywhere but spitting distance from the building next door for Jerry Eldridge, who's 80 years old and sits on her front porch. It's not that far away. It's not what he makes it sound like. And if it's something you want to bring to the town, to bring businesses and to bring employment, buy a piece of property across the street. Use your little property down here on this little side road over here, or whatever other businesses he has. But because it's a lawn and all the money that was invested in that, he put a little patio deck for the band and he put some lighting, to the best of my knowledge, in a little bridge that crosses the stream that's there. The 225 high school kids that were there, they marched for their prom. They were there for all of 10 minutes and then they left. So it wasn't a party that was held by 225 students out there making believe we didn't hear anything. I think if you have to take this into effect, it's outdoor concerts. That's the main thing that he wants, and beer fest on somebody's grass lawn where the rest of us live. I mean, come on. It's up to you people to hold us in standing here to keep our properties the way we wanted them when we've been living there all our lives. That's my saying.
I just wanted to ask, correct me if I'm wrong, what Bob just said and what you just said. There are a great number of businesses which are allowed under its current zoning, which is in the village district. In fairness, and I mean this goes back to obviously something that I've been involved with the Board of Selectmen, outdoor concerts are not an allowable use under the village district, which would be allowable if it was changed to roadside commercial.
That's incorrect.
Okay, tell me how I'm wrong. It's specifically not allowed in village, correct?
Specifically, well, the way you guys have worded it, it has to go to site plan review.
No, I'm talking about the zoning ordinance and
Yeah.
what is allowable
Only amusement
in a
facility.
village district.
That definition lays across all districts, whether it's nodal or commercial or what have you, there's still that line that is amusement facility. There's nothing out there that says outdoor events. There's nothing that says spectator things can happen. That-
And in any zone.
No.
Yeah, we just don't address the subject of outdoor spectator
Well,
events
that's-
in the zoning ordinance, as
That's
far as
not
I
what
can
this
tell.
is
Have you
about,
found
but
that?
I'm actually telling you that I would still have to go in front of this planning board for a site plan review.
Oh, yeah,
It
Correct.
doesn't change that.
All right, but you're right. I know you would still have to go through site plan review. But Connie, correct me if I'm wrong. A concert, being that it is an amusement where I believe it's spectator and no active participation by the attendees, is specifically
forbidden.
specifically forbidden in the village district.
Not in those words, but if you,
I haven't found that myself.
Well, read the definition of what's allowed.
that's right. It's all based under that amusement facility.
All right.
Whether it's village or whatever, they're all
It
permitted.
just doesn't talk about outdoor
Spectator
activity.
events
That's
are
the
not. That, no matter what, how you
It says
slice this
prohibited, it
anyway,
doesn't mention it.
spectator events are not allowed,
Yeah.
well, the way it works, I mean, you and I both know the way that that's worded, is not allowed.
It's right here. These
It doesn't
words right
change the
there.
wording of any of the zoning, of any of that.
Rather than a setback.
This is about
Just
changing.
So then what is it, then now you've got me lost. Then what is the advantage to change it from village district to roadside commercial?
No, it does, Bob.
Where?
It helps us out.
It says
How?
in which the person.
Oh, no, I'm not trying to be facetious, but I mean, I thought, and if you're telling me I'm wrong, I thought that was the only reason you were pursuing the zoning.
In the letter from all of our abutters, I have a copy as well, and it says, you know, I can do whatever I want over there, and that's so not true, it's
It
misinformation.
doesn't
I
say
can't
that
just
spectator
go over there
events are
and put a
prohibited.
stake in the
It
ground and
doesn't
say,
say
we're having a
that at
concert
all.
tonight.
I get that, but what then, what are you going to be able to do, presuming this passes and they change the zoning, that you can't do now in the village zone?
Well, a couple things. It allows us to actually be in a commercial district where we can maybe change that zoning wording later. But again, the town would have to be involved in that.
Okay. No, I'm not trying to be,
Okay.
Offer a perspective
Yeah.
here, if I may. I'm pretty sure, in fact, I know, that with the planning board's help, a public-spirited business can reach a reasonable accommodation with residents when a commercial activity butts up against a residential property. I know that can work. The reason I know that can work is there's a very good example actually in Wolfboro. Why Wolfboro? I'll tell you. The Wolfboro Inn has outdoor events. They have site plan approval for doing that, which was worked out with the residential neighbors on the other side of their property, which isn't all that large, really. There are certain limits on the time, on the volume, et cetera, of noise. It has worked quite well. The selectmen, in their wisdom, when they changed the zoning, the outdoor event ordinance, and dropped this responsibility in our lap, we're simply following the example of what Wolfboro does. If a business wants multiple continuing events over time, maybe 1 a year, 2 a year, it doesn't matter, 3 year, 2 year, 3 year, that's for the planning board to adjudicate with the neighbors, with the abutters. And it works, if it works in Wolfboro, I'm confident it can work here.
That's getting off the subject.
but that's a different subject altogether compared, what my question is, and maybe you know it. What can be done on that property if it's changed to roadside commercial that can't be done on it currently?
Nothing they're interested in except for events, I think.
Francis,
He just said that events couldn't be held even if it was roadside commercial.
let Francis talk.
Let's just give it more, my opinion is, obviously, the only people this is really gonna help is Hobbs. It's not gonna help the town, it's not gonna bring in, you know, it's not. But a little background about Covered Bridge Road, which you may or may not know. We've been dealing with the town now for several years on helping us out down there, because that thing, when the bridge was open, it was a racetrack. Because I read the GPS, they see that shortcut. They've actually gone off the road, I can remember, they hit trees on our dooryard going so fast, we didn't have to corner. We've had parking issues down there when the bridge was on, and even when it was off. That's why we went to the town helped us and put in a no parking zone down there, because we own both sides of the road. And they went down, and you can get down there on a busy sunny summer day, and there's 30, 40 cars, both sides of the road. And what do? They grab the canoes, they get down across my property, get down onto the beach, get down the river, they come back that night, gooned. All their trash goes out into my pasture, which I try to mow and keep clean. I'm out there every week with a bucket picking it up. So it's just, this has been an ongoing thing. And if it was a situation of somebody staying in a motel, I don't really care. We wouldn't be having this conversation. They're talking about having concerts, festivals, or whatever, beer fest, or whatever it is they're talking about. We're not talking about the guy that sold real estate, somebody goes down and tries to buy a lot. That's not an issue. I don't have an issue with that personally. I don't know about the rest of my neighbors. I don't have an issue with that. If my neighbors wanted to have somebody stay in their house and charge to help pay the taxes, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with people all over our property. And when that bridge comes open, we're gonna be back at the table again, because we're gonna have to do something.
Can I ask,
speed.
is this
And I have
property
a problem with
bounded by a
concerts
fence?
and the concerts and whatever it is. They're gonna
Could
do.
it not be bounded by a fence?
It could.
It'd be bound.
Right.
It abuts the backside of a river, so you're not gonna get the whole property.
Greg,
Greg Howard, West Ossipee, and like that. I think we're getting off the track here with Mr. Lord's comments about activities associated with the bridge. As far as I understand, that there are federal dollars, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, that are involved with that project, so that bridge will have to allow vehicle traffic in some form, correct?
Yeah, that's a completely separate difference from what he was talking about as far as parking though.
Maybe once
No,
a
no,
year.
but then it's incumbent on the town, is if you've got a through road, is if people are parking illegally, then it becomes an issue for the town to deal with the people who are parking illegally to gain access to the river associated with the bridge, correct?
That's already been dealt with. There's an ordinance already governing that.
But I'm saying, but once the road is open again, then, and there's through traffic, if people are parking along the road and they're parking on Francis's, Mr.
And I'll answer you again. There is already an ordinance in place that addresses the parking problem down there.
Correct. So I want to make sure that that stays in a separate realm, that is irregardless of what we're talking about here, because we're not talking about people parking up and down Covered Bridge Road associated with the change in use for this property.
well, that's a question that has not come up. Where is the parking going to be for these so-called concerts, etc.?
Point of information.
And
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
We're not
it's
dealing with a site plan review
it's
here.
not irrelevant if you are going to make a commercial enterprise out of this property.
I have 100 steps before I could even get there, even if this did go through. So there's no point in talking about any concerts, it's speculation.
I'm not speculating, I'm just asking a question.
What was the question?
If you do get a commercial instead of village, and you do have these concerts, it is going to, what is going to prevent people from parking on the road?
It's irrelevant tonight.
No, it's not.
Of course it is. We're
No.
not here applying for concerts.
Well, let me rephrase this question and make it relevant. If we change this to commercial, and you use it for commercial use, what do you have for parking area? That's relevant.
There's nothing stopping me from buying that John Sedgwick's house, tearing it down and putting in a parking lot. I mean, really, that isn't what we're talking about tonight.
Is John Sedgwick's the same lot
No, it's down the road.
down the road?
What district? Village or
Right.
commercial?
Village, parking is allowed in the village district.
Can I ask the attorney, since I've asked? What
Would
is,
we do that?
what
No.
is the difference? What is allowed on a roadside commercial that's not allowed in a village?
It's looking at the table of uses on page 78. Commercial uses between the village district and the, is this commercial or roadside commercial?
Proposing to go to roadside commercial.
Roadside commercial. Amusement facility is allowed in both, which it seems to be that's the focus. I don't see an awful lot of difference. The issue that I see is if they go for site plan review, they have and they end up buying this lot or whatever, or renting the lot, they'll have a use that transforms over 2 districts, which may be an issue with the planning board.
You own the lot now?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, okay, so it owns a lot now. So, I think probably, and I don't know that this should be what you're looking at, is they have some future plans for that property. That having it under a single district will make their job easier in getting an approval. But I don't know that that's what you guys should be looking at here. I think that you guys should be looking at whether or not the extension of the current district into that lot is a good idea or not a good idea. And I don't think that you should be looking at one person's long-term plans. I just don't think that's right.
And a good idea in terms of the larger town interest, public interest, as opposed to.
Well, I think you deal with that in site plan review. If you ultimately get an application before you, deal with those things that the neighbors are concerned with. And maybe you don't approve the site plan review. I don't know, because I haven't seen it, and I don't know what's proposed. So I think that the inquiry should be whether or not this planning board thinks that extending that district is a good idea or not a good idea. If it's a good idea, recommend the article. If it's not a good idea, don't.
Well,
One question, if I may. Would this change, this zoning, proposed zoning change, enhance the profitability, viability of Hobbs Tavern?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. When we went for all of this before, not going there, what we want to do over there brings in at least 10 new jobs. And it brings in other people. The way to develop a town, or what we all do here in this town while there's no new business coming in, is we recycle our money. There's no new money. I'm spending your dollars, he's spending mine. It's just recycled. By bringing in people with attractions and things to do here, we're bringing outside dollars for all of us to recycle. So yes, to answer your question, Bob, this has a bigger impact, and I don't know how to answer it any different.
yes, Bruce.
I've heard Rick ask the same question. Bob, Rick, and the gentleman back there. I've heard nobody answer it.
Which is what?
What's the difference? We want to know exactly what's one allows that the other one doesn't. Isn't that what you're asking? I've never heard anybody tell us that. You've all looked at the book and you've said, well, maybe.
I've not seen a difference personally.
What's the difference? Is there a difference?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Pardon me? Well, then read them off to us, for crying out loud. I'm sure the whole audience would like to hear the differences.
Going from village, from rural to village.
Yeah, you want to read the amusement facility
No.
section?
Read.
We need to know what the difference is.
Can I point out a section you might want to read?
Read them all.
I'll help you in your journey.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
4.4, structures and uses per lot. That's all. That's the only real differences between village, residential, rural, and residential, commercial,
Yes, I
commercial,
know. I read it all.
To
Page 2, roadside commercial.
roadside commercial, which one, right there.
Yeah.
That's the main difference.
But how that pertains to his potential uses or interests is
We're
very
not asking that. We're just asking what the difference is, because we're changing the zoning. We're not caring about his businesses.
So let me, because he just pointed out 4.4, Mr. Chairman, if I may. In the village district, there's under section 4.4 of the zoning, it says there shall not be more than one principal structure allowed per lot. I think that's probably the key here. In the roadside commercial node, and corridor districts, the number of structures allowed per lot shall be limited by the permissible percentage of lot coverage.
And to clarify that, we're in a floodplain, we have barely any setbacks. That's not our benefit, you were just asking what the difference was. That's not why we're doing any of it. But you were looking, that's really the difference between the two. We wouldn't be able to build another building, that is not our goal.
Dennis,
I guess
I guess what I'm saying, you got two groups of people here, strongly in favor of one to the other. Have you tried to sit down as a group and discuss these problems? I think the biggest problem is noise, or what you conceive as being very noisy most of the time. Could you?
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they do down there. I see tents down there, I assume it's your farms all at once, stuff for that. They haven't had, I don't know, when they're closer than we
We've
are.
had no
Well, I have a
problems
problem with that.
with
I have a
with
problem with
what's
that.
being done right now. Because it's been, planned events that, a limited number of people. By the way, Terry Bryant, resident of Covered Bridge Road. What's happened is they've held weddings and so forth. We've had no problems with it because the parking has been over at their own restaurant. The people walk across the bridge. It's small groups of people. It isn't public events. And what is happening now, it seems like that he's looking for public events. It's not the local events of the restaurant that's a problem to us. Not at all. The parking's good, everything's good. They don't use other neighbors' land, they don't inhibit us in any way. But when you talk about having concerts and so forth, I think Lindsay made the comment that the town has places for these non-profit things that he's talking about. But what he's not looking for that. He's looking to do something there in a bigger way for the general public to make money.
Well, to be fair, that's what you do with
It's not what the
business.
land's for there.
If I may interject here a little bit, if I heard Mr. Sager properly here, the only difference is the building. In other words, he can already do or can't do what you're talking about.
No, he can't.
That's my understanding. Am I right or am I wrong?
Because
That's the way I read it. I mean,
No,
That's what I
that's not
understand.
true, because why did they say he could do one concert there to see how it goes? It never happened anyway.
I was never there, and all I know is get dumped in our lap, and I'm asking the lawyer for advice, and he's basically telling me what you just said is not quite accurate, because the only difference between the two districts, between village and the roadside commercial, is the buildings. Everything else is either allowed or not allowed, so he'd still have to come in for a special permit, which could be shot down, or a site plan, which could be still shot down, because you still have input, you still have to notify you.
So then why change it?
Exactly.
Am I right?
So then why
That's
change
my
it?
point.
Exactly, that's my point.
Whoa, one at a time, please.
Just to finish up, what you guys have already said that he can't have concerts there.
We
He was
have,
allowed
We have
one
not.
time.
We have not.
we have not.
We have not.
Why didn't he have them then?
We don't have any
Selectmen did.
control.
We have not entered into this
Well,
issue.
We do not have any control over that.
No, but the selectmen
The
did.
selectmen did.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
The town allowed him one event to give it a try. It never happened. It never happened. If he had even done that, the way the town ordinances are right now, he could only have, I believe it's one a year. And that was what was talked about at a previous meeting.
One, he can have one concert without coming to a site plan review, period. After that, he comes to the planning board. Site plan review, he can have one every day.
Exactly. But that's why he was allowed this one chance to prove himself, and he didn't prove himself.
He's still allowed it.
All right.
He's
Well,
still
back
allowed.
up, back up.
We're
Rick.
back on outdoor events.
I mean, the only thing we're here for is to decide whether or not for the planning board to recommend or not recommend.
That's right.
But we have to have the public input,
Okay.
and we're trying to have it.
Ash is up there and then.
No, Kathy is first.
All right.
My point is exactly, if something is missing here, but our request here for people on our road, and it's everybody but one, is if there's no difference, then why is he asking for a change? My request to you is, don't make the change. If there's no difference, it doesn't matter, then don't change it. why change it? Because if not, and we're all missing something, then we can't go back and change it back. So why make that change?
Greg?
What's being petitioned is for a change for one lot from one district to another district. When the town voted in zoning back in the late 80s, as I recall like that, what was proposed is this: we had the roadside commercial, you had these village districts, we had what was a vision for how the town would develop into the future. In the almost 30 years that I've lived here, we've had a number of other parcels that have gone through this very same process that asked for a reclassification in zoning. And the way I was always taught is a zoning document is not a static document, it is dynamic, because things change over time. And I don't understand why we're running into this question as to what specifically is gonna happen on these parcels. We don't with any of these other, when these other lots were put in specific zones, whether it was village district, roadside commercial, everything else. There wasn't, I don't think, discussion other than what the framework of the zoning document, asking all these nitty-gritty questions about
Mr.
what's the
Chairman?
intent for the parcel, what's this and that. We've had other parcels that went through this process, the planning board, for whatever reason, decided they did not recommend, and it still went to the townspeople. The townspeople are the ones who are gonna ultimately decide this question. So I think you need to be really narrow as to what you're thinking about when you're gonna make a recommendation either for or against, instead of going on assumptions.
Can I address that real quick, please?
Can I ask him something?
Wait a minute, you're next, Rick.
I've been here for 8 years, and we have done a few zoning changes, and we asked every question we're asking now, what they're gonna do, why they want to change it, including the Granite House up on the hill and a couple other places. And we asked specifically why they wanted to change it, what the benefit was, what the benefit was not. And that's all we're doing this time. It's no different than it has been the last 8 years I've been on the board. And it's our job to weigh both sides of the story and make a recommendation or not make a recommendation. If we don't ask the question, we're not doing our job.
I guess my only question is, and this is what I'm really not trying to be argumentative. It does make a difference what's proposed to go there, because otherwise, what is the purpose of changing it? I mean, we could go down Covered Bridge Road to the fourth place on the right and make that roadside commercial. I mean, that's what they call spot zoning. You mentioned other changes, and I listen. You won't find anybody who is a bigger critic of our zoning ordinance. I think there are areas in town that absolutely ought to be commercial that aren't commercial currently. That's a different question altogether. We're talking about 3 Covered Bridge Road, a road which is currently village. I'm simply asking somebody to make a compelling case on why it should be changed to roadside commercial. And in all fairness, I have not heard that. Somebody needs to make a case. What's the reason? I haven't heard it.
I gotta hear it first.
Lindsay Lord. In adjunct to this is why, if Ash has made multiple comments that he has multiple commercial facilities, that he can have these events, attendee events, why this street? If there's not an appreciable change, it's causing hate and discontent among the residents, but it's why this change, because he has multiple facilities, existing facilities that can meet his needs. Why do we need to change this when there's no appreciable change and it's causing distress on the environment and the residents, is my point.
Bruce?
The young lady sitting next to her, the way she spoke, she seems to be the impression that we here are going to approve or disapprove it. And we don't have that authority.
It's recommended.
All we can do is recommend or not recommend.
Correct, right.
So it's not gonna be decided tonight. It's all up to you folks when the vote comes.
Right.
Dennis?
I think whether it's changed or not, if they're considering having concerts, they can come before the board and get a site plan review and have the concerts as it is now, without this change, am I right?
Yep, I understand.
So if that's your concern, you know, it's not placed well, because right now, the way it is, if I'm getting this right, the restriction's not there for him to come for a site plan review, so he can have concerts here.
There's the answer right there with his hand up.
Sam Martin, Son Ossipee. After listening to all of this, the one thing that kind of sticks in my mind is the lot merger. That seems to be, to me, seems to be the underlying tone in here, because nothing else would change except that he can merge those two lots.
So, thanks for calling on me again, Chairman. So I guess I wasn't very good at explaining earlier. Yeah, I did mention lot merger, but what doing this really does is gives us the flexibility. As a business, we have to remain flexible, and it does provide some outdoor seating, outdoor capacity. That's a very large building. We take on a very large tax debt to this town, and we need to make our dollars for every square foot that we have. And it provides that. It would be much easier to do if the lots were together in the same district versus you know, two different districts. I think it's, you know, pretty evident. One thing I want to, you mentioned spot zoning, which is far from spot zoning, but you know, the amendment does not create a new commercial district. It just actually adds on to the current. And that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to, as much as I think my employees certainly know, try to make a difference in this town. I sit in front of these boards every single week, and I'm trying to learn and make a difference in this town. And this is what I'm trying to do. Yes, Rick. I'll call on you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're fired.
You want to say something?
Just
Mr.
one,
Marshall?
yeah, thank you. Listen, and I don't mean to sound, again, argumentative, but you started to answer my question and then you took a hard left turn. Hobbs is a good employer. They employ a lot of people. They pay huge taxes. I agree with all of that. I'm not saying that what you're trying to do is with any ill intent toward the town. There is, though, there's got to be some reason. When you mentioned the outside seating, you can sit on it now, it being village, that you can sit, you're not giving it.
Not public.
Not public what?
I can't invite public to sit over there.
Why can't you?
I didn't see it as a restriction there.
This is where I'm being lost. If you are wanting to do something, which you can do on the roadside commercial that you can't do on the village, that's, to me, what is going to carry this argument. Otherwise, it comes back to, you want to change something that doesn't do anything to anybody, and yet everybody on the road is against it. In fairness, I mean, unless there's something that you can do that you can't do now.
Roy?
Yeah, I'll make a comment here. We did other changes, and they were restricted to what they wanted. Memory serves me correct. And they had reasons for doing it. And unless we come up with a reason that we can restrict it to, I would not be in favor of it personally. If you had a good reason that we understood, might be a different thing here. I'm in favor of business. But every one we've done, that's the type of business has to be in there. If they want to change it, you know it's changed. They're restricted to that business. Let's say come back for change of use. And that's basically what we need to do here, or I would not recommend it.
I just have a question for the board. Are you all familiar with that property?
I actually went to an
You know
Indian
there's a
powwow
brook
up
that
there
runs
years
between-
ago.
When you talk about joining the property, there's a brook that runs between the two of them?
I'm familiar with it.
I'm just curious if you knew that.
Yeah, I used to walk across the bridge.
Last time they were cutting discussion
Sure,
off.
two points. I've told you what I want to do, is that you just don't like what I'm saying. I want to have concerts, I want to have outdoor events, I want to have beer fests, I want people to come into this town and spend money. It's just not what you want to hear, Roy. Second,
But you can have concerts now.
not outside.
Of course you can. You come to site plan review.
I wouldn't have the parking.
You're allowed to park in the village district.
So,
Not
so,
on my property.
so you would rather.
But if we
use
change
that
the thing, it would be
property
on your
as parking?
property either still.
So you'd prefer me to have people driving down Covered Bridge Road and parking on that property?
They can't park on
I
it.
don't think that's wise. And that's honest truth. I don't think, that's not at all what we're looking to do. We don't want people to park over there. We were approved, we had plenty of parking without anybody parking
I
over
see
on
you way
that,
back there, Mark.
on that area.
So what's the problem? You got a place to park. You said you had plenty of parking. So where is the ordinance change gonna help you with your parking?
It provides us flexibility. I know you don't like the answer to that.
Well,
But it provides us
every
with
other
flexibility.
commercial zone that we put in the ordinance, it was specifically stated what they wanted to do with it. And to do anything different to change the use.
And I've told you.
And you are allowed right now, come before the planning board and you're allowed one concert a year anyways, if I understand the right, period, whether we approve it or not. And if you want more concerts, you do a site plan review.
I believe I'd have to go in front of the select board. to
Not
have that.
anymore, you come before us.
No,
To have one, they would have to,
One to
And
select.
on record, Rick has said no if I showed up there. And I.
Yes, he did.
You want me to pull that out?
No, I agree.
Okay.
Second point,
So,
bring your second point up,
so
please.
just lastly, the last thing I'm gonna say, thank you all for your time, and thank you all for coming out and supporting, and not supporting, it's a good conversation. This is from the Ossipee Chamber, it should have gone to the boards, I don't know if it did, but I wanna read it for the record. To whom it may concern, Hobbs Tavern has been a member in good standing at the Greater Ossipee Area Chamber of Commerce since their opening. The Chamber and its members are dedicated to making this area a better place to live, work, and conduct business. The Chamber works in conjunction with citizens, businesses, educational, and governmental partners to provide a positive business environment and improve the quality of life in the Greater Ossipee area. Area businesses such as Hobbs Tavern are an integral part of the Ossipee Valley economic and recreational community. They attract many out-of-state visitors to the area each year, whose contributions to the local economy are vital to the financial well-being of the region. We would like to ask your help in supporting our members as they continue to serve our community. That's from the Greater Ossipee Area Chamber of Commerce.
Mark,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I love a good
You want to
conversation.
identify yourself, sir?
He did.
He did, all right.
Mr. Chairman, I love a good conversation, but I think we've gone on quite a bit here. My question is procedure. You're going to reach a decision here whether you're going to recommend or not recommend. I haven't seen the agenda posted. I'm here for another case. I'm just wondering if you're going to get through to that business.
Mark, is that on Valley Point?
Yes.
They will not be heard today, the 7th of February.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, then continue on.
All right, call for motion.
I'd like to move that we recommend this change for the following reason. The owner of the largest employer in town says that this will enhance the viability of that business. I don't think we should be second-guessing his business reasoning. As issues arise about the interests and needs of the neighbors, they will be dealt with fairly and thoroughly, I'm sure, in the site plan review. So I move that we recommend this change.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I recommend that we recommend this change, this zoning change, this petition.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Motion is dead. And I'll tell you the reason I would say no to that is because just because he's a large employer in this town does not mean that we have to change our zoning to meet him. As Mr. Como said,
Can I make a motion that we do no recommendation at this period of time?
I think that's a gutless position. You gotta take a position one way or the other. Either vote it down.
At all.
we have to make one way or the other.
And I make a motion we don't recommend it.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roy and Rick.
Go ahead.
Okay? Bob, yes or no?
What?
Or any discussion on the motion?
Undiscussed.
Bruce, you're up.
Yes.
Yes? Dennis?
Yes.
Yes? Roy? Yes. Rick?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Connie?
There's no tie, so I'll abstain. Motion is carried. Will not recommend, sorry, Nash. Laura, you just have the 20th done. Minutes.
Have the third.
What's that?
Something wrong there. You and I agreed, there's gotta be something wrong.
It's very wrong.
Should we mark the calendar now?
I think we've only agreed on 3 times.
4 now.
4, this makes it 4. In 8 years.
That is scary.
All right. Minutes.
Wait a minute, are we ending the public hearing?
No,
No, because we
no,
have,
because we still have all the other ones.
we still have the other ones under it.
Yeah.
So we have, Mr. Sager, we have to close if we, and then bring back the other ones? Or should we go on with the other ones?
I think you have to close the public hearing. You posted 2 public hearings.
Correct.
You've conducted them.
Yes.
They lasted more than an hour.
But
Almost 2.
You can close the public hearings and go on with your regular business, which can include discussion of another.
what about the others, the fire ruin building, et cetera?
This was the
That's within the planning board
agenda
meeting?
for the,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
For
others
the
here?
Next,
yeah.
yeah.
So this, okay, I'm not following what this is.
These are
Wait
other
on.
articles, other zoning ordinances that we could change, some of it.
They're not by petition though, they're recommended by the selectmen so we can deal with them in the planning board meeting.
Well, no, some of them are by state laws, just updating
Some of them are,
our current zoning ordinances to meet with state law.
But it still will have to go on by the zoning board.
Yes.
Yeah.
well, we've already voted on them once,
Yeah, we have.
because they're all just changing from 1 year
But
to
this
2
one
years.
is the
Yeah, we have
select.
done
Because of the
We've
variance.
done that.
Yes.
So somebody will simply have to write up the
They
warrant.
have, they have been
That's
written up
just
here.
what the selectmen would like
We
to
just
see
have
the
to
planning
go over
board
it.
do, so there's.
Well, it was what Steve Kennedy had presented, and that's why it was on there. I was told it had to be on there, otherwise we couldn't get it.
Okay, well,
All right,
it's not part of a public hearing, so the public hearing can be closed.
Well,
You
it
guys can
is.
talk about it. Okay.
there is certain ones that we've taken up
Still have
before,
to go to the bathroom.
so I think we can take those up, Laura.
Hmm?
I think we can take the ones up, like the 1 to 2 years.
Okay. So 4.2,
Those can be taken up because they were voted on previously by the planning board.
9.5 and 9.6.
Yeah, that we've dealt with before.
We still have 4.3 and 4.4. So we're still in public.
We're still in public.
Okay.
4.2, fire ruin buildings. That one, Bob,
Which one?
read it.
4.2?
Yeah.
Okay, fire ruined buildings. No owner or occupant of land in any district shall permit fire or other ruins which are uninhabitable to be left indefinitely, but within 2 years, it's now 1 year, and we would change it to 2 years, shall remove or refill the same to clear ground level, or shall repair, build, and replace the structure. And and that's per RSA 674-28, Roman numeral 3, changing 1 year to 2 years.
4.3, go ahead.
4.3, height regulations. The building height for all buildings whose primary use is residential shall not exceed, it now says, 2 1/2 stories, or 35 feet, whichever is less. So we would strike the words 2 1/2 stories and whichever is less. So it would read, building height for all buildings whose primary use is residential shall not exceed 35 feet, period. The building height for all buildings whose primary use is non-residential shall not exceed, and we strike out the words 3 stories and retain the current 35 feet. Strike out whichever is less. In other words, simplifying both of these to simply put a limit of 35 feet on commercial and residential building height. These height limitations do not apply to domestic radio and TV antennas, silos or storage of feed crops, church towers, water storage structures, chimneys, wind-operated devices. And that's the whole 4.3. So this is simply changing, amending this to read.
You gotta read the RSA's.
And the RSA, per RSA, right. 674:28, Roman numeral 2, 674:25, Roman numeral 4, section D, parenthesis D. That's it.
4.4A.
4.4A. Structures and uses per lot. We amend the second sentence of this current zoning provision to read as quote, as follows. An accessory structure may be permitted on the premises consistent with the use of the principal structure. An accessory structure intended for use or occupancy as a dwelling must comply with regulations pertaining thereto. Currently, no accessory use for residential or dwelling purposes is permitted. This would be changed in anticipation of permitting ADUs.
9.5.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, if you don't get any ADUs, then what?
No. Well, then you got it anyway, right? Number 9.5, expiration of approval. If the industrial use has not commenced within 2 years, striking 1 year, now becomes 2 years, the approval for such use shall be null and void. So I guess a industrial building permit is given a 2-year validity rather than 1 year.
That's per RSA 674-28.
It doesn't say that here,
I
but
know,
I'll
but-
take your word for it. 9.6 is the last one, discontinuance effect. If the industrial use is discontinued for, we strike 1 year and make it 2 years, the land reverts back to the original zoning district. That's it. So again, a reversion of land back to its original zoning status occurs after 2 years, not 1 year, if the industrial use is discontinued. That's it.
I asked a question on that. We changed a couple zones, including for a Foster store down by the old A-frame, Merrill's piece of property. And we changed the Granite House, was no longer an insurance place. That means them zones changed back what they were?
No, it's the zone.
Because you're just saying if they're not used, the zoning just goes back to what it was. The town vote to change that
I
zone.
think this must pertain to a variance, is that right?
It needs to state so, otherwise it takes the other 2 districts right back to what they used to be.
No. If the industrial use is discontinued, if they never started it, they can't discontinue it.
But my point is, the Granite House was an insurance place, it's not now.
That was
And we
never-
changed that zone.
No, we didn't. It went around that, remember? They were the only ones, when the insurance people came in, Tracy came in,
So what do we do, change, give her a special permit or something?
yeah. We gave her a site plan. It was not changed.
For the new use, yeah.
Because, you know, it seems to me if the town vote to change the zone ordinance, even if the business stops, it should stay zoning.
That was not in there.
Because the way it's read, it sounds like anything that was changed, if it's not
If
used
an
anymore, goes back.
industrial use is discontinued,
Yeah.
it's gotta be in operation to be discontinued.
But my point is, if somebody built a Hanford up here on Merrill's property, let's say, okay? In 2 years, decide it wasn't working, 2 years and 1 day, somebody else wants to use it, it's too late. That's what you're saying.
No, 2 years from the date of discontinuance.
That's what I'm talking about. If they're out there for 2 years, 2 years and 1 day, they have to come back before and get rezoned. That don't make sense.
I know, but that's the way the law, the zoning was set up.
All right, make it 2 years and 2 days.
No, but my point is, if there's a town vote to change the zoning, how can that law re-change the zoning the town voted to change? It can't, my opinion.
I don't think it does.
What's yours?
I don't think it does.
And the way that's worded, it does.
No, I don't think so, and I think you're getting off on the side. because
I don't think so. I like Rick to read this, get his opinion.
All right, let me finish. It's not about changing the zoning, it's about changing after they've been given a variance to put like a industrial
But I
on
didn't
a
hear the
commercial.
word variance is my point.
No, it's not in there, the word is in there.
But it also doesn't say anything about changing zoning back. It's changing back from what?
Well, it said it goes back to its original zoning, he said. Which means if it was village district, we got it to commercial zoning to get what he wanted in there, because he had to do it for some reason for the building. 2 years and 1 day, because that building's vacant, it goes back to village's district, even if the town votes. Do I understand that?
Not even.
That's how I interpret that. I don't screw up too often.
Couple of things. First, I have to leave pretty soon, and I don't know that I need to be here during this discussion, but I'll answer this question. If there is an industrial use that's been approved, either by, variance or special exception, and it's not commenced, or it's been essentially abandoned for 2 years, then that they don't have a right to start up that industrial use again. There's no change to the zoning, it's just they lose their approval for that particular use.
It doesn't sound like it's worded that way, that's what we're doing.
But that's what we tried to do.
Well, it says.
Because of these people,
I'm sorry.
they come in and say, well, it was grandfathered. When was it grandfathered? Oh, my grandfather had it 5 years ago. Closed it. It's not grandfathered.
So, basically what it says is if you get approval for industrial use and they don't start up for 2 years, they lose the approval. It also says if you have an industrial use that you've been doing and you haven't been doing it or you abandon it for 2 years, then your approval goes away. That's what it says. Because it says if the industrial use has not commenced within 2 years, the approval for such use shall be null and void. That's one. And the other one is if the industrial use is discontinued for 2 years, the land reverts back to the original zoning district, which I don't really like that wording. I think it should say.
I didn't like it either, that's why I brought it up.
Okay, so you have a problem with that wording. I do too. I think it should say if the industrial use is discontinued for 2 years, it can say the same thing. The approval for such use shall be null and void.
That would make more sense to me.
That, I think it should be the same.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stop billing the town and get the hell out of here.
I can't afford any more taxes.
Well, we still got a whole lot of bunch of zoners to go through, but
Do you need me here for any more of the zoning? As to the,
you had questions.
on the other, I gave Steve my comments on the paperwork that
Okay.
I was provided, so,
You're comfortable with that, Steve?
I will be
I
in
don't
the.
recognize some of the stuff that's on here.
You what?
If this is what I submitted,
Yeah, you submitted it to the selectmen.
I'd like to double check what I have in my office, the last two paragraphs.
Well,
We're here, we gotta do this tonight.
We gotta do it tonight, Steve.
All right,
We could
all right,
potentially
this was crossed out
amend
anyway.
it at the next.
No, you can't.
You can't?
You're out of, well, let's
You
see.
amend it tonight and then vote on it the next meeting.
You have your next hearing January 31.
Correct.
And I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I think you're pretty much running out of runway for having another
so,
meeting
yeah.
after that.
That's
We
right,
have.
yeah.
We
We
have.
figured, yeah.
So I think that
The
you just,
last day is today for publishing a public hearing. If I remember right. So, if you can't publish a public hearing, you can't continue it.
it could be that today, it has to be, the hearing has, well,
She's got the list?
I don't know, I don't have the calendar in front
I got it
of me.
right there. So Roy, you wanna change that?
Nobody ever read my writing.
Actually, Thursday, January 26th is the last day to post and publish notice of a final planning board hearing. So you still have some time. And that last hearing would be, looks like February 6th. So if you're gonna do anything different with, or in addition to what you already have for the ADUs, you should get that language into a form that you really like tonight, because January 31 is gonna be your next hearing, and if you make any significant changes to that, you're not gonna have enough time to have another public hearing, because the public hearings have to be at least 2 weeks apart. And if you have January 31, you don't have enough time to have another one within the deadline. So you're basically, you're out of runway. So decide on what your wording is tonight and have the hearing on January 31, and that's it. And if you won't be able to make any changes at that point, you'll either put it on the warrant or not put it on the warrant. Okay, is that clear?
So those ones other than industrial, we can recommend, put them on the ballot.
Yes.
Okay.
Only changes we got read out.
Right. Except for 9.5
9.5.
is the industrial one that Roy.
No, 9.6 is the one he
No, it's
wants.
9.6. Just that the land reverts back to the original. We changed that to read as 9.5 does. Shall be no, the approval shall be null and void, right? Yeah.
Of course, maybe we want to do some different language in that, because we don't know if the industrial use ever received an approval or was grandfathered. So you might want to say, instead, if the industrial use is discontinued for 2 years, said use will be deemed abandoned.
That would be good.
Okay.
Industrial uses that come up with.
It would just be industrial uses, which would be,
Yeah, but I didn't think of that or something like that. 'Cause
no,
we have-
no, that's.
So we have to amend that, because we have quite a few buildings that have been empty for 2 years.
You got that, Laura? Said use shall be deemed abandoned?
Well, I.
So, I mean, that would come under
That shows you raise.
discontinued
Something shows
use.
your raise.
Oh, yeah. Really? He's great.
9.6.
I do that to be, I'm trying to get you a raise.
You're not staying here till midnight either.
You're gonna get started, or you're gonna be, you just wanna.
We're gonna be in the midnight if you don't get going.
Well, we're trying to get things straight.
It should've been straight long before the meeting.
So those 9.5 and 9.6, you're just gonna change the language of these two relative to industrial uses.
Now, we were gonna change them just to 2 years
Right, 2 years,
instead of 1.
right.
And this is the one that Roy is.
Right, and I think we just talked about
Yeah.
changing the language so that it reads, if the industrial use is discontinued for 2 years, the use will be deemed abandoned.
Or use, or said use.
Or said use,
Said
whatever.
use
yeah.
Would be deemed
Well, why don't we
abandoned.
just eliminate disconnected, see that, and put it right in here. Approved, expletive.
The way it was would be misinterpreted by different boards. There's no
Because
misinterpretation this way.
9.5 has to do with an industrial use that has been approved but never started.
Too many
because
lawsuits
they didn't
not to
have
get my
enough
eyes
money or
crossed
something
up
like
right.
that.
I ain't lost any yet, I don't wanna start now.
I'll be in my car for a while, so if you have any questions, give me a call.
Which car is it, so we can get you?
I don't have your number, but
You can write it down. I'll write it down for you.
And if you're smart, you'll give them 1 digit wrong. Sorry, I've already got the answer before, I know it works.
Right.
Brad will get to you sooner or later.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, that's my cell, that's in my pocket.
Okay,
You're gonna start all over?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we,
Someone else wants to take a predicament.
Dennis, yeah.
I don't mean they can't bring your plans
Yeah, no, we haven't discussed this yet. We need to read it out and decide whether this plus
If something's changed, they gotta change.
points should be included.
4.2, we changed the following.
That's why you want the limit on, because the laws change, it's screwed.
We changed the following, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4A, 9.5,
And 9.6.
no,
No.
9.6 we have to do separately because
You're right, yes.
you're gonna bring it up next meeting.
Okay. Yes. We need a motion.
I made it,
You did, that was a motion? I'll second it.
I'll second, all right, he got it.
all right, so we will put that on the ballot.
You wanna vote here?
No, we don't have to vote.
Sure you do. You gotta vote to recommend.
No, we don't.
Oh, no.
Not
No.
If we submit it,
All right, but you're
We're not
still gonna
recommending
vote that as a board.
That
you're
this
submitting
indeed
it.
is our position. Let's vote on that. You got a motion, we gotta vote on it.
that's a given.
What?
When the planning board puts it on, it's a given the planning board.
I get that, but
recommends.
you made the motion.
Aye.
You
You
made the
made a
second,
motion,
you simply
Carl.
gotta vote
We got a second, now
that.
we gotta vote. All those in favor, say aye. Yes, it's done.
It's formality, but you got one step left.
All right, now,
How about somebody votes
He's
against?
pointing at me, I'm in serious trouble.
Glad you're
Probably
here.
what I do.
I recommend
Glad
it.
you're here tonight.
I got big shoulders, blame me, they always do.
All right. Laura, would you read off 9.6? How we'd like to do it.
9.6, discontinuance effect. If the industrial use is discontinued for 2 years, said uses would be deemed abandoned.
Shall be deemed abandoned.
Shall be, yeah.
Yeah, may, you don't have to.
No, she said would be.
Oh, would be, all right.
Legalese is shall.
Shall be
All right.
deemed abandoned.
All right.
We need a motion on that?
Curiosity, why is the word industrial being used? Is it strictly for
Because that
industry?
is what,
That's the section.
Pardon me?
that is what the Hail Marys said when they set it up. When they did the zoning with Bruce. That's what they came up with.
Whatever.
It means commercial, actually.
Now,
Well, I know, shouldn't it be
But if you
commercial,
wanna
industrial
change
and
it-
commercial?
if you want to change it to commercial or industrial and commercial, you may.
However, it'll be out of kilter with a bunch of other stuff that's in there, so why don't we just stick with the language they already have?
Oh, we have to correct a lot of other stuff.
Correct.
Just keep it simple.
Keep it
Let's
simple.
get light.
Is everybody in agreement on that amendment?
I am.
All right.
You move?
We will have to have a meeting January 31st. And at that time, we will vote on it.
Mhm. Yes.
We cannot vote on it tonight.
Just date it for January 31st, don't post date it.
Right.
All right. That's all the changes that were posted, right? for-
So what did you do to 9.6? My old fogey's brain missed something there.
We
Change
changed
language.
it to,
Huh?
You changed the language.
change the language to say that it shall be abandoned.
Okay, good.
Not
Be deemed abandoned.
Yeah, I heard you and Sager talking about it. so-
Now, when do we get to the selectmen's proposed language on
Under-
accessory dwelling units?
Right here,
Oh, good.
under old business. Right,
What are we doing with 35.1?
that's on old business.
Okay. So
Minutes.
Are we closing the public hearing?
No, well, we
We're
can't be, if we're
moving
gonna,
to, or are we just
if we're gonna
going
have,
straight into it?
if we're gonna have the public hearing.
We just-
No, we're having a public hearing 31st.
Yeah,
I mean tonight.
So we will close tonight,
yeah.
discuss the selectmen's recommendations
Under the planning board.
Yes, and the planning
under the
board.
planning board.
So
Are there some other people
Are
that got
are
here
you
first?
calling the planning?
Are there some other boundary lines you just gotta do first before we get to that?
No, that's not in a public hearing.
No.
When you close the public hearing,
Are we closing the
should-
public
We are
hearing?
closing the public hearing
Alright.
on zoning,
Yes,
All you need to do is declare it closed.
closed.
right.
all right, so now we got other people here, I think, for
Now we
boundary
have to
line.
go back into our agenda
Now we start the planning board meeting, somewhat later than usual.
Right. First one is minutes for the meeting.
Motion to accept them.
1-3.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Motion passed. Unsatisfied. Everything's pending for Westwood Shores. Mr. Jones, would you like to present? But before you present, we have a little discussion.
There is a draft letter there.
And we have a draft letter, but I think we should, you can comment on after you present or before on the Westwood Shores
Invoice.
letter.
Sure.
Have you seen a draft of our proposed response?
No,
Oh.
because
Okay,
it's
no,
in draft for you guys to review.
Not for us, not for him to, he hasn't got anything to comment on it at the moment. You may not want to comment.
Okay, thank you.
Probably have to wait till public,
Just point of information, is there a possibility we can have that turned so that we can see it as well?
yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I'll get you binoculars.
You asked for it, Ash.
That's fine. Fine, buddy.
He's got special glasses, he's all set.
You mull it over, Brad, while you,
Sure.
You may or may not feel that you're in a position to comment on it, that's up to you.
well,
You're here, we thought it'd give you the opportunity.
first order of business is the application for boundary line adjustment, which is case 17-1, boundary line adjustment, Artie Martell, care of Marcor LLC and Ossipee Aggregate Corporation. Tax map 277, lot 4, 278, lot 2 and 3, and Wolfboro for 48/9 with Jones and Beach. I will move that the application is complete.
I'll second.
All those in favor? You may proceed, sir.
I'm Brad Jones, of course, with Jones Beach Engineers, and I'm here tonight basically for lot consolidation and the boundary line adjustment. You want me to go over the plan first? And I know everybody got a copy of the plan tonight. It's a little easier to read when you highlight it, and that's what I've done here. There's actually three parcels of property that exist today. This green parcel is owned by Arnie Martell and Marcon LLC. You can see that it's 100 acres. And it's got frontage on Browns Ridge Road. It's got quite a bit of frontage on the Northeast Railroad. That's the outline of the property over in here. There's two other parcels that are owned by Ossipee Aggregate. It's a long rectangle parcel here and more of a square parcel back over here that exists today. So what we'd like to do, there is a small sliver in yellow. This is a section that's in Wolfboro, and we have notified the town of Wolfboro. They said there was no need of a meeting with them. They're aware of what we're doing, and as long as not a change to the parcel in this location, which there is not, they didn't need to have a public hearing on that. flip to the, we don't have a color sheet. So this second plan is what we're trying to do, which is really square up these parcels. The owner of 277 Lot 4 wanted to try to get rid of this long finger to square up his property. So you can see now the new proposed property. It's still 100 acres. It's still got frontage on Browns Ridge Road. It's got a little more frontage back over here. And the lot line, so it's basically an even swap of property between the two. One of the other things we did, we vacated this property line here, and we're also gonna vacate this property line, so it ends up being one parcel for Ossipee aggregate, and that's 91 acres that they have at this point. So there's really not much of a change to them. As you can see, this is the location of the old line back in here, so that's what we're presenting to the town tonight, and like I say, the only reason for this lot line adjustment is to really square up the parcels, and it gives more frontage in the railroad track back to Ossipee aggregate, which is probably more valuable to them to have a little more control of this property over there. So,
What is the total increase then in the orange lot size?
yeah, so this is 91 acres at this point,
Yeah,
and it was 91 acres before with the two parcels combined.
okay.
Yeah, because they had two different parcels.
Where is Marco's gravel pit?
This is a gravel pit, this is the access road in here, and this is a
That's where the pit is?
gravel pit area in here, yes.
And you still got the 4.5 open?
Yes, yep, there's been very little work done on there, and this year he did haul a little bit of material out of there, but it's basically, probably from the last time we looked at it, it's pretty much the same as it was.
And the taxes are paid on both, four pieces.
Yeah, so I actually, when I did the application, you got a copy of that, so I checked on all the parcels, and from what I found, everything was paid. Yep.
I think we got the tax bills in here. What was the only other thing? Anyone have any questions?
Looks like a simple boundary line adjustment to me.
Make a motion that the boundary line adjustment be approved.
I second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion.
I'm left-handed this way, right-handed that way.
See, 2 hours and 15 minutes, you held your
I know,
ear, and 5 minutes, you're out.
We should do new business first.
I'm sure it was worth the wait.
Now, I did bring the Mylar tonight. Is that something that you wanted to sign at this point, or do you want me to just leave that with you?
Right, right. Okay.
These are some additional copies if you want those.
As long as you got the check with you to pay. Chip.
Yeah, I'll have to get that.
Oh, you got your, the bad,
I'm not sure it's the right one. If not, I'll go get my Sharpie.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
He's already billed you.
Copies if you want those too.
He held the bill a week ago.
This reflects the final plan. Okay. They did add the stamps lot and registry.
Can you just take one so I have it for file?
Okay, that's good.
We can do an all-night session.
25 after on conference.
All night 25.
We make 7 more minutes, we'll be the whole record.
We'll make 7 minutes, you're making it's only changes.
You want to sign it?
I'm trying to remember how many copies of the large list.
I think so.
At least 5 of them, yeah.
Want to sign it?
Yeah, the Mylar goes to the registry of deeds, but these all have to go to, various places in town.
Okay, so when we do any of those now?
Yeah, because I've got to sign all of those.
The others.
You send the one for here though, right?
Right.
You can call back.
I have one of those, please.
Certainly, I'm gonna give you one folded up. We're gonna fold it up, please.
I gotta sign it.
You want that tonight?
I was trying to ask you.
If I can, I actually need to clarify what you included in the checklist.
Okay.
It's an odd amount.
Oh,
Figure
really?
out how it was broken down.
You all set?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's a balance of 82 for the town, and then I need to check for the registry of deeds, 158, 155.
Case number 16-7. Site plan review is continued,
28, Town of Ossipee.
requesting it continue to 7/17. Make a motion, so.
I'll second. Oh, Bob, you got his hand up first.
I got my hand up first, I second.
He first.
All in favor?
All right. We just did a motion. Continuing, next case.
Connie made it, Bob seconded it. For continuance.
All right. ADUs.
Microphone.
Nothing new and different.
Time for me to go, guys. You guys have a good night.
Oh,
You can't leave yet, we
can't.
can.
We're not done.
Yeah, I can't see.
Mr. Connick. David,
Tell us
what do you
the
want? Your illustrious boss to tell us.
Tell us what is written here is what you recommend. Don't get complicated on us.
No, this is what I submitted to the Selectmen. I don't recognize everything here. I mean, it's paragraph at the bottom, I don't,
Which paragraph you on?
these two right here.
Which two? I can't see which two. What number?
The last two paragraphs.
Oh,
7 and 8.
oh, the
Steve.
definitions.
7 and 8.
It's the dwelling unit down below.
No, the sentences.
Do you have a copy, Connie, of the one that the
Sentences there.
Selectmen signed? Do you have a copy of the one the Selectmen signed?
Signed?
I don't have a copy of that.
Is that it?
Yes.
That's what it is.
Did we get one of those?
He didn't recognize these two items here. The definitions.
Brad, you want to, what do you want to do about
One
that?
thing that crossed my mind about
I
recommendation.
can formally send it to you if you want.
Yeah, let me do that, yep. Yeah, then I'll let John readdress that. What he's gonna do.
So, what do we,
But basically, you understand where we're
Is there something to,
you want to take the draft?
That's the original copy.
did he add that on there?
We would have gone to West
Okay.
but we're in the middle.
I can see it. Yep.
If there's a factual error in there that we need to know about, then show them the draft.
Okay, yeah, let me do that. Give me a minute, and then we'll
I'll have
respond to
Laura,
your
I'll have Laura type up another
Okay,
letter.
fair enough.
And,
We approve what you proposed. So we'll get back to you.
Bottom line is, we really appreciate that.
Sure.
it's like that. We said to Westwood George, are you okay with $4,500? They said, "Oh, yeah."
See my finger with me?
That's what we should.
No, I understand. Yeah, so I even notice that it's going over when it does. And sometimes it's hard for us to track that. We don't know to, you have to, it's not always real. Understood.
Appreciate your help.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lorna kicks the bucket. She's living down in Florida, and I talked to her with that someday. Why wouldn't they have the right to rent?
Taken care of. Great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred.
There are people like to sit around on board and say something else.
If you get it,
What do you want to say?
I've been surprised at something that's said on this board the last 8 years. Shocked the hell out of me.
all right, gentlemen, quickly, Jones and Beach, letter.
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
Want to read it out? Everybody got it in front of them? I'll read it out for the benefit of the interested public here. This is to Mr. Ring, who is CEO, I think, of Jones and Beach. To Mr. Ring, the Ossipee Planning Board is in receipt of your invoice dated September 22nd, 2016, of $6,679.75 for services by Jones and Beach Engineering in the matter of Westward Shores Campground Resort peer review. The planning board notes that our contract with your firm specified a price of $4,500. Accordingly, under our rules, the applicant agreed to reimburse the town of Ossipee by that amount and no more. If at any time during the course of this project or before its conclusion, your firm had advised us and the applicant that your cost would exceed the agreed amount of $4,500, we could have considered, in consultation with the applicant, amending our contract accordingly. However, your firm did not so advise the planning board of higher costs in a timely and appropriate manner. I regret therefore that we are not able to pay more than the contracted amount of $4,500 for C's signature. Our friend here from Jones and Beach has just taken a copy with him. They'll respond. Actual error in here, but that's our position.
We have to send it to them formally. So I submit that we send this to them
Well,
formally.
you can sign it as acting chairman.
And, well,
Make a motion, Tony signs it, and we send it.
yeah, all those in favor?
Second, then we vote. Okay.
Seconded.
ADUs,
Steve?
Yes, sir, this is the accessory dwelling unit regulations, 1 through 8.
Mr. Morgan's got my copy.
Yeah, the back. I wouldn't give it to him. He'd never back.
Terrible, he can't remember what he wrote.
Rick told us that it is not possible to have a separate set of regulations that the selectmen adopt that govern, implement, otherwise govern how the ordinance is administered, implemented. So whatever rules and regulations pertain to the accessory dwelling units have to be in the ordinance itself, which means the second page here has to be in the ordinance itself. Okay.
We'd always agreed on that. The selectmen were
No
not,
misunderstanding there.
the selectmen were not trying to set these as administrative rules.
Right.
The planning board, excuse me, the planning board is the only one that can man land use board. That's what the planning board is.
Yeah. Right.
Selectmen have no authority on land use.
That's right. So whatever wording will govern ADUs has to be adopted into the zoning ordinance in its entirety. No separate body of regulations that governs it.
No, that's not true.
Huh? Sorry, that's my phone.
You can adopt these to go along with the petition.
The selectmen can.
No.
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 No, we can. That is, the town can.
The town,
Yes.
what you do is you write this up. This is what you want to restrict, and only the restrictions. And you word it so that it is in unison with the petition, which is very easy to do.
Petition passes, Nat passes. I don't think you want to do that, Connie.
No.
I don't think you can tie this to the petition. I think they are two separate
This stands
issues
by
altogether.
itself.
What I'm saying is, if the petition is accepted, then these are accepted.
No.
No, not at all, no.
If the petition is not accepted, then you can't accept these.
You absolutely can. You
Absolutely,
absolutely can accept these.
Yes.
Because you're gonna be amending your zoning ordinance to allow for, if you adopted those, to allow for ADUs, both attached and detached, with those restrictions.
Well,
I don't think you can tie it at all to that petition.
No, you can't.
I really don't. They're
I'm
two
not
separate.
saying tying it to it.
That's what you just said.
No, I'm saying,
I know my years don't overlap. Clash, but all they
if I
overlap.
box them again, they will.
Well, okay, you go ahead. You're feeling froggy, you just
What I'm
leave.
saying is that you pass this or present this, not so it conflicts with the other one.
No, it's gonna be one or the other.
No, it doesn't.
Well,
It's
here's
gonna
what,
be one or the
here's
other.
what
No,
happens.
it doesn't.
Both on the ballot.
If they both pass, this will take precedence because it imposes a set of regulations on the RSAs that are addressed in the petition.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive at all.
No, but they're not.
But they can certainly complement each other in the end if they both pass, but they're not mutually exclusive.
In fact, this also states right here that the ADU rules shall comply with RSA 674, 71, 2, and 3, which is what the petition would have you do also. So they're consistent there. So if the petition measure fails, and this passes, there you are.
But if they both pass, you're still okay.
You're still, this is going to take precedence because this has a body of rules in it. Can we do the simple thing and just kind of, or did you want to change wording while we're at it here?
I had a question, one part of the word,
What-
where they said that the owner has to live in one and they can rent the other if they want. Or we need some type of special session in case the owner passes away and somebody's son lives in Florida and he don't want to move back for 20 years, you know.
That's an issue they're going to have to deal with when it arises.
That's not a fair issue they can deal with. If they don't want to sell the house and they want to leave it empty, I would want to leave it empty.
If you deal with that with
There should be a way for them to go before the board or something else, get permission to do it, or they should be exempted.
Well, you can request a variance from any zoning rule. From any zoning rule, you could request a variance to your Board of Adjustment.
If somebody dies, some new person, maybe unrelated, will own the property. They become the owners.
Yeah, but
They can rent the other place, too.
sometimes it don't happen that way, that's my point, I've seen it happen.
Yeah, but you could never, not for nothing, you could never craft a set of rules that's gonna come up, that's gonna
No, you
cover
can't.
every
I just want to
hypothetical.
be sure people are protected in case something comes up, or they're offered a job for 5 years overseas and they're coming back. They want to put somebody in the house and rent both places out to pay the bills.
Well,
I wouldn't have a problem with that. I just don't want the board saying, well, no, the rule says this, you have to do that rule. I've seen that happen.
but the same-
Otherwise, I'm pretty comfortable with most
The
of it.
same provision exists in every town's proposed amendments, I think, around here. So if the issue arises in one town, it'll arise in another.
But Now every town handles the situation the same way.
We need to keep this simple,
Yep.
easy for people to deal with. And any issues that come up, we deal with those as they come.
Are there changes in this wording that you think need to be made?
Yes, I gave copies. Fine.
What do you want to do there?
should we change to 750?
No. It should be no, it can't
No
be less
less
than 300, yeah, it can't be smaller than 300, it can't be a
And
200.
the thing
That's the
said
maximum.
750.
No, that's the maximum.
No,
Uh,
minimum.
No. Yeah, This says it can't be smaller than 300. What you're talking
State law
about is
says-
you can't require it to be smaller than 750.
State law says 750.
You can't require it to be smaller than 750. But if somebody wants to build a place that's smaller than 750, they can do that. What you're saying is,
As long as
it
it's
cannot be less than 300.
It's a buildable structure, a livable structure.
It's not livable if
Correct.
it's smaller than 300 square feet.
That's what,
Him.
Says Boca, right?
what's Boca say?
The life safety codes, and then, doesn't the life safety code set a minimum standard, minimum?
You got size standards, yes, for a minimum size structure.
But
What is-
is that already in the building codes?
Yeah,
If it is, then why do we have it here?
that's in the building code.
Well, then it's already enforceable, right? All right.
So why have it in there?
Because it provides clarity, that it's gotta be a
It's-
minimum
they'll
of 300,
understand.
Doesn't
whatever
hurt
it
anything.
is, and
All right. So
State law says
you cannot require it to be.
Yeah,
but it-
But we cannot put a cap of.
correct.
Size cap.
But it has to be at
750.
least 300 and whatever it is in order to be an accessory dwelling unit.
We cannot make the maximum size 750, smaller than 750. This is about the minimum size.
So what happens if somebody just adds a bedroom?
70 square feet, one person.
But they're not adding an
That's
ADU
requirement.
because the ADU by definition has to have sanitation and
That's
living
right.
and sleeping
They
facilities,
have
et cetera.
sanitation they can use.
This is just a room we're talking about. That's different. Right.
You've got to add them all up, kitchen, 120 square feet, 70 square feet. For this, you're gonna have bathroom. It all adds up.
Outhouse.
I don't understand your amendment here. You've
The
got the
lawyer
words.
did it.
Huh?
The lawyer did it.
The lawyer did it. I
Yes.
thought he did it.
No.
No,
Sager did this?
Yeah.
Sager did
Oh.
that.
You don't, God's gonna go fight with them.
You wanna call him?
No.
No, Sager made those recommendations.
There's these changes in red
Yes,
here.
those are his.
Now, I have a problem with number 6.
I'm still
You
trying to
got a
figure out.
detached, how you get 2 meters, 2 houses on 1 meter?
Do you understand this? What he's trying to do?
If you put another dwelling on, you got separate wiring, you gotta have a separate meter. I don't wanna pay for the damn.
What's in
We'll have to
each
work on
bedroom?
it.
Yeah,
If
where does
it's
that
an
go?
attached dwelling, it's gonna be the same meter.
Where does
But
that mean?
that's
here?
in-
Don't have to be the
No,
same,
it
I've
doesn't
seen
have
2
to be.
meters in one house.
It's on the
For
same
each
wall.
bedroom in the.
It's on the same house.
Okay, all right, I got it.
And then he's
Then he's just
suggesting,
crossing
he's
Elizabeth and
suggesting,
starting
boxes,
there.
not a
I
big
got it, I
deal.
see.
he's
Property
suggesting
owners.
that
You wanna start
that's
making
not
separate
necessary
apartments, yeah.
altogether.
Right, I see.
That's what an ADU is.
Okay.
They have to have
Instead
a
of
closed door.
community development.
That is,
I got a
Planning
question
board.
on the minimum size
Right. And
for
delete this.
unattached,
Okay, I got
okay?
it. I can read out the
Whoa, whoa,
changes.
whoa,
Oh, sorry.
that
If you
is
want.
that's the floor.
Dennis, I'm sorry.
You've set the minimum 300, right? I'm gonna put a detached
Thank you.
on my piece of property, and I fit all requirements. And I buy myself a small house. The tiny houses you see, they have the kitchen, they have the bedroom, they have everything you need. And some of them are as small as 100 square feet.
They're on wheels and you can drag it around too.
Right. That, you have to make allowance for that.
That's what he's trying to prevent.
Those are campers.
That's a camper.
Why is it any different than any other?
Why is a shipping crate any different?
But because of the cubic inches.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's-
and then it goes, do you want a camper to be allowable as an accessory dwelling unit?
No, I can see where someone who's retired or someone who's single, putting a small tiny house. Those tiny homes are just like, they're as nice as anything you can find in a mobile home or anything.
So you're
They're-
talking a detached
They're just a
structure?
tiny house.
A detached structure?
Yeah.
What you're talking?
Yeah, detached.
Go back to Boca.
I think it's gonna be on a permanent foundation.
Or at least a
Okay,
slab.
these are just questions I have. Because
No,
I
but
know that
I-
that's a big thing now.
Danny, I can tell you, when we talked about it, the concern was, if you get very broad on your definitions, then you could have a camper. Somebody could pull in a camper and it's, 150 square feet, decide they're gonna live in it.
They can't, more than 2 weeks.
Under our current zoning, yes. But if you're not careful on how you define what an ADU is,
You'll end up with one on wheels.
No, it's, travel trailer is described in there. And it says that you shall not, they can take the wheels off, they can do anything they want.
Oh,
But they can't live in it more than 2 weeks, period.
I see no
And
harm in
again-
setting a minimum size of 300 square feet, because that is, as a fixed structure, the minimum livable size in our building codes already.
It's awfully small.
Yeah.
I'm just asking
Okay.
a question.
Can I
That's
read you
what
the
they come
the
up with
changes
somewhere.
here that Rick Sager has recommended? Nothing changes until you get to item 4. Got that in front of you?
We didn't get, I didn't copy
Well, yeah, we got all.
that. I saw it last week when Steve had it.
Look over his shoulder, okay? Item 4. Rick says it should be changed to read, a minimum of 1 dedicated off-street parking space shall be provided for each bedroom in the ADU. So if it has 2 bedrooms, you need 2 extra parking spaces, that's all. All right?
Well, I'd find
If you have 5 kids, 5 bedrooms, you're screwed.
It's a hell of an
You're
ADU.
not gonna hit, well,
All right. Next change, item 5. The first sentence is struck out, so the item begins, item 5 begins, the property owners at the time the ADU was established, etc. And then in the last line, planning and community development, the words "and community development" are struck out and you substitute board, so it reads planning board. Provided to the planning board and the assessor prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Last
sorry.
change.
I'm sorry, Bob, go back to that one,
I'm sorry, where are we?
the one you just did.
5,
Number 5.
property owners.
Begins with the property owners. That first sentence is struck out altogether. The one beginning single-family dwelling that's struck
Third
out.
side.
Begins the property owners. Okay. And down below, it's changed to read, the planning board and the assessor. Okay, so striking out the words "and community development." I'll give you this afterward. It's his scribble, so you can read it directly.
What do they got for number 6?
No changes on number 6.
Well, we need to change it.
Well, none that he suggested. I'm just telling you what Rick Sager has recommended. The only other change is item 8. He suggests deleting it. So delete question about a certificate of use issued by the zoning administrator required to verify conformance with the preceding standards. Well, you issue an occupancy
Certificate,
permit
yeah,
anyway.
certificate of occupancy.
Yeah. So he suggests striking number 8. Right.
as well as the next 2 definitions.
And then there are
because
2
those are covered in
definitions
the
of dwelling unit and dwelling single-family. Strike that out because it's already defined elsewhere in the zoning ordinance. Okay, any questions on that? The
Shall we go
changes
back
with
number 6?
6?
Yeah, we could, if you got an apartment, you want a separate meter if you want one. My light bill is $180 a month.
Number
You put
6
somebody-
here
You put somebody's
says,
apartment.
property owner must occupy one of the 2 dwelling units. Electric, water, sewer utilities shall be metered on a single bill.
Not me. You got 2 hot water heaters in there, it's gonna kill you. My bill's $200 a month now. You put an apartment on there,
If you want to rent the ADU and your tenant takes a shower twice a day, you're going to have an awful big electric bill that isn't yours, right?
That's right, you put them in separate meters.
Well, it says here, must be metered on a single bill.
Can't do that.
Should we strike that last little
That was
sentence?
for attached.
It still can't be in one damn bill. You get the same problem. You got a separate apartment, you have to close off a separate door, you're putting up a separate apartment, you're adding on to it. You can wire it, put your own fuse box in, put your own meter on, it's not a big
Separate
deal.
people living there who have different habits and run up bills that aren't your bills.
Well, I got 2 women, my bill's $200 a month now, because they take 1-2 showers a day.
Why would,
And
why
they
would,
run a 50-gallon tank out every
why would the
time.
planning board and why would the town care whether there was 1 bill or 2 bills?
That's right.
I think this is meant to force some sort of, I don't know what it's meant to force. I don't
I
understand.
don't know.
Well, my thought was, you're right, you're right.
Can we delete it?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so on number 6, thank you, Roy. We delete the second sentence. Electric, water, and sewer and utilities shall be metered on a single bill.
I have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Property owner must occupy one of the two dwelling units. Mr. Morgan, how are you gonna police that?
Well, it's not, listen, none of them are
And,
easy.
well, wait a minute. Plus the fact that it's an LLC or a trust, are you gonna have the trust live there?
I believe that most of your LLCs or your trusts would still have a trustee who was probably, let me finish, you asked me a question, that would still be listed in the document so that you could have a way of investigating whether or not one of the people in spirit or otherwise is the owner occupier.
No.
The thing I think you're gonna be careful of is this. If you don't require that one or the other, and I don't care which, if they wanna rent out the main house and they wanna live in the garage or vice versa, if you don't do that, then you run the risk of places in particular around the lake, which is where I think it could cause you the most heartburn. Every single one of them putting on an accessory dwelling unit and then
Calling Airbnb.
literally renting out multiple places on every lot around the lake. I think you could end up hurting yourself tremendously.
Number one.
By having one of them be owner occupied, it allows what I think is the desire of these things to begin with, which is the ability to have a kid or a mother-in-law. And listen, I think that with the economy, you're gonna see more and more extended families staying together because it simply makes economic sense.
I don't doubt that, Rick.
But my point is, if you do it where one is required to be the owner, you're accomplishing all of what it is you hope to accomplish, and I agree with you that it might be difficult to police some of them, but it sets the standard that one of them has to be owner occupied.
Problem I have, and I don't care whether I'm a trustee of an LLC or not, I am not the owner. I am a trustee of the LLC. The LLC owns the property. Period.
If you're the
That's just
trustee,
like-
But a member of an
So-
LLC doesn't necessarily have to.
Be the owner.
Right.
Well, but in fairness, in that scenario then, maybe that property that is owned by the LLC isn't entitled to an ADU under the Ossipee zoning
And
code.
it's discrimination.
How is it discrimination?
Because you're not allowing
Wait a minute, wait. Who are you discriminating against?
the LLC.
Who's that?
Doesn't matter.
No, wait a minute, who's that? Because that's the SOB that can't stay in the house.
Right. But you still, no, he can stay in the house with the LLC's permission.
yeah, no, that's the way it'll work. Steve down
That
there first.
question came up in Sunny Road, remember?
Yeah, did, yeah.
And the answer that he gave was that never came up in discussion
Of course not.
when they
Encountered.
wanted it.
Yeah, well, Steve, did you have a thought on this?
No, I just think we're getting away from the whole concept,
Yeah.
what the ADUs were
Yes,
for.
that's right, that's right.
We're just getting away from
ADU.
it. These are to help the people that are living here, the elderly, that can't afford their taxes. If they
No.
want to rent it,
Go
fine,
back to the
fine.
beginning, Doug. You were at the meeting. You were at the meeting. You were at the meeting.
Yes.
He said that the legislature adopted this by working with the town or city of Durham, which is college kids, period. And he said it right at that meeting.
Well,
Durham's always
So-
had a problem.
all right.
Right.
Let's
So,
not discuss
don't-
Durham's
which
interests
way we
tonight.
go tonight? You're gonna be
Don't-
working on
don't
this for
sit
years
there.
to come.
Don't sit there and tell me that this is made for families, etc.
It is. It
You
is.
want to get away from that?
Can
You
we,
say,
can we engage the public in this discussion a little bit? We
No.
got some experts in the subject down here.
when we get ready to have the public,
I'm ready.
We noticed.
Yeah, I know.
if you turn that around and say only one of the two properties shall be rented, you'll get away with it. But then, owner occupied, we're gonna get sued.
If I had a lot of money That's how I would do it. If I'm thinking your way, you have to have some type of guidelines. Let's go with it and see how it works out.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna have a problem with it. I think you're going overboard.
No, I'm not going overboard. Everybody has told me the last 3 months, oh, we gotta look towards the future. This, we gotta anticipate this. We can't adopt 674, 71, 72, and 73 in its entirety because we don't know what's coming down the road. Well, this is coming down the road.
You're gonna see a lot of rental units out there coming down the road. That's what you're gonna find.
That's what
you're gonna have, row housing.
No,
Can we have some public input to this discussion?
no.
Connie, didn't you suggest an alternative?
How would, for example, the real estate industry view these issues?
Are we opening it to the public?
I'm trying.
No, I haven't opened it yet because I'm still waiting to hear from Rick. Rick, he wanted to say something, right?
I said it.
Okay, thank you.
What was it?
Say it again.
I didn't hear you.
Mr. Ossipee, would you like to talk? Stand up, Carol.
There's not enough people here to stand up. As I said earlier, if I'm the house that's sitting there all by itself and my neighbor puts a house up, whether it's in front of a lake or not, I may think they'll just ruin my property because now there's renters coming in and out. However, if I'm the one trying to keep my house and I'm renting it, it's better for me. And the next buyer might say, great, it's got income property, it's great. So it's a tough one to call either way. Because either way, someone's gonna get hurt and someone's gonna benefit. So, we do need housing here, we absolutely need housing.
How do you feel
We
about
do need
attached
renters,
versus
too.
detached? Would you prefer one over the other, or should we be asking the public to approve both in one package?
There's so many ways to ruin a town with having a lot of detachables, that's a tough call. If you can limit it to one on the property, like.
This does limit it to one on the property, yes.
Carol,
Yes.
I think
You're gonna get me into trouble now.
no, I'm not.
We're trying.
Come on.
If you stop and think about this, there are factors that are gonna limit ADUs. One is lot size because of setbacks. Two is money.
Septics.
The biggest thing, because you put an ADU up and you don't have the money, so you go to the bank and say, well, it's gonna be rental property. They're gonna say no.
What we propose limits it to one anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
about that.
that's in here.
That is incorrect.
I
There's a
think
lot
so.
of money
As
out
long as you
there.
have the rent roll, I don't know about that.
Greg,
What about the, you have these minimum sizes for what classifies for the detached unit. You limit it to one detached unit per single-family residential structure or
That's-
whatever you have on the site.
Per lot.
You have,
That's already in there.
That's
yeah,
it.
it has to be, no, but I'm just saying is you have this whole checklist, so you basically, people are going through a checklist, so, and that basically the architecture, everything else has to be congruous with what's already there, so you don't have something
That's in
that
there.
looks, but I'm saying, so if you have those things, then I think you start to have, besides the other limitations on sewage loading, building setbacks, depending on what zone, what the zone is, I think that's about the best that you can do in terms of trying to have something that will not create, if you don't have these things, I think it would be a total nightmare. You'd have these, what look like modified sheds being rolled in on properties where they plug in some plumbing and everything else so that they have their own plumbing, but it looks nothing like the structure that's already there.
Those are restrictions that are in our proposal.
Yeah.
It's exactly
I
that.
don't see I don't
No,
have.
no, but it's literally exactly, one per lot, because you could end up with 6, depending on the lot size, one per lot. and it has to have the architecture which is similar to that of the house that's already there.
Yep. This is Sam's turn.
Sam, can we get back to the owner occupied, which is where we were when we got off track here? If you don't do something about that, I think you're gonna have a problem, LLC or trust aside. I think it's gonna be more difficult to open that barn door once you close it. If you put that in there now, you can take it out, but if it's not in there, you're gonna have to put it in, and you're gonna have a problem.
That's right.
What? Then I will ask you a question, Sam.
Oh, wait a minute.
Two, how are you gonna police it? And if the owner is not occupying it, say his kid is, are you gonna kick the kid out?
I think if we have a set of rules
They're
that people
fines.
have to follow, that they will take care of themselves. But I think we need those rules before that barn door gets closed, and we have to try to open it and get them back in again. It's better to have them and have to get rid of them than to not have them and try to implant and try to put them in place.
How long does it take to evict somebody from a home?
90 days at least.
At least 90 days.
90 days.
At least.
And by the time the selectmen decide that it's not owner occupied, and they give it to Sega, you're talking 6 months.
But you're speculating, Connie, and the point here
Well,
is...
you're speculating too.
Yeah,
No, I'm not. I'm saying that you need to put something in place that you can remove, instead of trying to put it in place
Right.
after you've got a problem.
I don't see it as a problem, because
It could be a big problem.
if you put in there that they can only rent one unit,
Somebody still has to investigate that if it comes to that. So what the hell, what's the difference?
well,
In the end, somebody still has to investigate whether or not it's one person renting it.
that's right.
So you're back to where you actually try to
Personally-
put up a set of rules which most people will follow on their own. They really will.
If they own
Most will.
99%.
The ones that don't, that's
It's
the
the
other
problem we
zoning
already
officer.
have, and I think that's the problem people see. You can have all the zoning ordinances you want, but if you don't have policy to follow and fines to levy, they're no good. So, yeah, are you gonna kick somebody out? Certainly, that's the law. You have fines, the state sets up a fine. You don't have to do it yourself. You're gonna be fined $250 a day for every day that you're there. That's it.
All right, Dennis. Your father died, but before he died, you put him in a nursing home. Your son lives in that house, and you put an ADU on it. What is your position?
I guess I fail to understand what
Your
you're
owner is not occupying it, and you're putting an ADU on it.
Then you can't put the ADU. Well, say it's already there and the son is using it.
I just think you can what if
Yeah,
what if this thing to death. And
What if
you,
it
that's
stayed
why,
there the last 3 months?
this is exactly why you guys have been talking about this
Exactly.
for 3 years and haven't decided it.
Well, 3 months, but still.
No, 3 years, in all fairness. This has been discussed for 3 years. ADUs have been discussed,
Yeah, but not-
more at length in the last 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, there's people out here.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the accessory rules to
As
whatever we
amended by Rick
put
Sager?
forward. Pardon me?
As amended by Rick
As
Sager?
amended by Rick Sager. And at the same time, I would like them rules attached, well, I can't say that, can I?
Nope.
Okay, we adopt them rules.
All the text, the 2 things here, yes.
Yeah, the page Sager collected.
I will second that. If I can just ask Rick, Steve, one question. Are you satisfied that the way that's written, that it's gonna satisfy what you need to do as the inspector?
That gives you some type of guidance to go by.
I second.
Ted,
I think there's a conflict here with your number 3 on your regulation and number 7 on chapter 674. 674 in number 7 says that the size may not be restricted to less than 750 square feet, and you say no less than 300.
The 750 is a cap, a maximum. You cannot make a maximum smaller than 750. This 300 refers to you can't have it, you can't build it smaller than 300.
To less. You're restricting it to less.
No. You're saying they're saying that you can't set a cap of less than 750 on its overall size. What Steve has proposed is that there be a minimum of 300 to make it an
But you
ADU.
can't make it smaller than that.
But it can go up to 1,000 square feet.
Right. Has to be at least 300 and no more than 1,000.
I don't think,
Oh, it's.
Well, that's the way it's written.
That's not the way I read it.
Go ahead.
I mean, the cold hard reality is, okay, so you imagine all these scenarios, what the intent may have been is these accessory dwelling units is to allow the family member to live in a unit, or for somebody to allow them to keep their property, to stay where they currently live. They put one of these units in to supplement the property taxes and everything else. So you have owners, so you initially have owners who are occupying the property, but eventually the properties change hands. Eventually other people buy them. They never are gonna stay in the same family the entire time. They're going to continue to change hands. So you might have control over a property when it's first developed, but as soon as somebody dies, somebody moves, they sell the property and like that, now, are you gonna be able to limit the property changing hands, and that only people who intend to occupy one of the structures can buy the parcel? I mean, that's the problem.
I don't think that's any problem at all.
No, real estate agents, as long as they disclose that.
For the person who wants to abide by the rules, if you were looking to buy a home, one thing, I mean, I think you might look at it, well, Jesus, it has an apartment which I can rent, or I can bring mom in. But you're gonna know going in that you're gonna have to live in one of them and rent another. If you choose to abide by the rules, then that's what you're gonna do. If you don't, can you get away with it for a period of time? Sure, until your neighbors turn you in, and then the zoning officer will be up to see you.
I think the other thing that nobody's looking at is that if you have a mortgage on that property, what do we have in place that says that mortgagee is giving permission for that? Which can be a technicality because of the way these mortgages are read. Is that correct, Carol? They put.
Not everyone mentions renting, not every mortgage mentions.
And even then, that's up to the owner.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the owner's responsibility, that's not a zoning responsibility.
No.
Any time to move the motion for crying out loud?
Can we end discussion then?
If you don't want to discuss it anymore.
Oh, we're going around little circles here.
No.
Okay.
Call for a vote. Would you please read the motion again?
I made the motion, he seconded it.
Motion is.
We've had the discussion.
Laura.
Ask the secretary, please.
To adopt the accessory dwelling unit regulations.
As proposed by the selectmen and amended by Rick Sager.
I don't believe.
Actually, it was
His motion, and I don't believe that was the motion.
I'm sorry, it is.
It was your motion, and I don't believe what Bob just said was your motion.
It was close enough. That's the same intent.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, then you explain it to both of us, please.
No. You made a motion. He cannot embellish that motion.
I
You
embellish
either-
everything. Yeah.
He withdraws a second, you withdraw your motion. Let him make the motion then. We
No.
went through this once before.
No, I want to hear your motion.
Ask the secretary.
Thank you. What's his motion?
I'm gonna say Steve because he's the one who submitted this
All right.
with Rick Sager's amendments to
The wording.
the wording, the layout of it,
A couple of changes we made.
and the changes that were made. I do want to clarify on number 6, we are only striking the second sentence.
So only the second sentence is being struck, the one starting with electric, that is electric, water, and sewer utilities should be metered in a single bill, strike that.
Right.
Yeah, that was struck.
Didn't you just say you wanted to move the motion? Or move the,
The motion was to accept that paper with the corrections that
Well,
Rick Sager put on.
the two pieces of paper. We got two pieces
No.
of paper.
He
What
said
two
that
pieces?
paper. Don't put words in his mouth.
You're not, what about this basic 35.1? You're not including that in your motion?
No,
It's 35.1.
What Steve marked for recommendations.
That's what I approve, that's what I.
They go together.
no, they don't go together, Robin.
This and this.
They don't go together, Bob.
They do not go
Let me
together.
see that.
He made
Is
a
this not what
motion
you submitted? Or not?
on this page right
You
here,
only want this
and
page.
that's the
Which is
only
your
motion
submission?
we want.
Hey, so I made the motion.
Very good.
Here you go, here you go, Bob. Thank you. I think I got mine here. Oops, sorry.
We got it. Oh, it's fine.
That page was all I made the motion for with Rick Sager's corrections.
Is there a vote?
Not
Is there
yet.
something? Not yet?
Chill.
What?
Chill. Rick. Okay, how do you want to do it?
Yay for exception, nay for no.
Yay for what? Acceptance, yes.
Rick,
yeah.
you accept it? Bob,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes. I think I got abstained. I signed the yellow one. I abstained from that.
I signed the other one, it didn't make a difference.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
I abstain.
Oh, somebody told me I was in conflict of interest if I did get in it.
No.
Not at all.
I think they're two different articles, they do two different,
Right.
they complement each other in the end. I hope they both pass.
5-2, motion passed.
Very good.
So the notice of restriction, Steve, is not included.
What'd you say?
The notice of restriction is not included.
Okay.
If you find you need it, come on back next year.
I mean, it'll pass anything.
You picked up and being recorded.
Now,
Yeah.
that was 35. What was it, 35, 1, A.
Are you looking for the reference?
So we're not putting out anything other than that from the planning board?
No, we've gone through a whole,
No, we got, the
What, you
what do you
wanted
call
this
it?
reference, 35.1?
Damn, I wish I could speak. We've got the petition one, and now we've got the regulations.
you got that right.
You got several other you voted on a little while ago, all the, what they basically referred to as housekeeping changes.
Yes, plus that, yeah,
Yeah.
that goes standard.
Right.
And that's it, that's all, the planning board's not gonna put anything else up on it. My
No,
only
we have
concern, I'm gonna explain my only concern.
No, we have,
My only concern is that number 3 and number 1 and 2 are all put together. And number 3, I think the town people should be allowed to pick if they want separate ones or just the ones in time or none of them. Or all of them, whichever way they want to do it. To me, there should be more choice than just that, hurry. Just my thought.
well, you're the one that,
Pardon me?
you're the one that said to vote that page. We voted that page.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're the one that said to vote that page. We voted that page.
Correct.
so.
Because that page is gonna go whether the petition one passes.
No, it goes on the ballot
I
separately.
understand that, and if it's voted in, it goes whether the petition one passes or any other one passes.
Correct.
Oh, okay, that's what the motion was. I'm asking you about the state's laws, preferably number 3. Number 3 is the separate ADU. To me, the people,
674, 73.
Talking about the detached.
yes.
That's in the petition, and it's
That's in
also,
the petition, I'm not talking about the
and
petition.
that's also in what you just said. What you just motioned.
It says we have to allow ADUs?
Yes.
Where does it
Detached.
say that specifically?
It does, yeah.
It regulates them, but it doesn't say we have to have them, does it? Or am I mistaken?
It says
You're
we
gonna
have-
regulate them, you gotta accept them.
It permits them, yes.
Where the hell did I do that paper?
Do we have any other business to get to?
Yes, we do.
Top sentence, Bruce.
We have regular record by how long you be? 45 minutes now.
Usually they start early at 7 o'clock.
No, but do you ever cut off when you try to be done? You work tomorrow?
No, just check.
You're all set.
Just check it.
Somebody wanted to change 35. Where is it, 35?
Snowing yet?
Yeah.
35.1.
This is the language I put forward in lieu of minutes,
Hey.
they had.
Open the door.
We're stranded here for night snowing. No, I got 4 to drive, I'm going home.
We have to change that.
If I didn't,
So
I
we
won't.
adopted this in place of this, that's all. This replaces this,
Okay, whatever.
yeah.
Get this going for Terry comes down and kills us all.
Is there anything else we have to do?
Yes.
Oh, okay, got it.
Oh, my daughter.
I can find my,
Need an agenda?
master plan.
No.
Okay. We have to approve the invoice to LRBC. The amount of $90 for the planning board. Make a motion that we pass. Say, all those in favor?
Right.
You have in your packet something new that's gonna, been called for in the zoning. And the ZBA is supposed to notify us 2 weeks in advance whether they hear a variance or anything else. And this all came up because of,
Because Connie thought I needed more work to do.
right,
Yeah.
Valley Point.
I was trying to get you a raise.
Yeah, that wasn't in the deal.
Well, that's just telling us, etc. I don't see anything else unless somebody's got something.
Motion adjourned?
Public comment, further public comment from somebody?
On
Anybody?
adjourning?
Quickly,
Yeah.
quickly.
I just wanted to make a point for the record. When that gentleman came in and merged those lots, no one asked why. I just wanted to put it out there.
Because he said it in his letter.
I didn't get the letter, so I just
Well,
wanted to tell you.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't hear you ask why.
But when they
Yeah, we're
submit
both on
something
the
like
same.
that, they always have a cover letter. And he explained it that Ossipee and Marcor wanted to square off their lots.
He actually explained it right up
He
there, too.
explained it right up there.
Yeah.
The underlying
Well,
why we
let's,
don't know.
let's get the motions going and get the hell out of this place.
All in favor?
Who made the motions, please?
You're not eager to come back and do this again?
I would just assume that Frank would retain his seat on this board.